What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Gift of Gaming podcast. And this week, it's Games Club. And myself, Kev, and Craig are talking all things Final Fantasy 16. That's right, we finished the game and we're ready to delve in deep. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear what we think of Final Fantasy 16. All right, it's me, it's your host, Darren Wade, and today on the episode I am joined by none other than Craig, the Critical Nolan. Craig, how are you?
How you doing, Darren?
And Kev Brennan. Kev, no add-ons to your name just yet, but I think you guys would be the Final Fantasy dream team.
I've got to be Kev Brennan though, because we can't mistake me with Kev Purcell.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's two Kevs on the show. Yeah,
there's worse people to be mistaken for, but I feel like it's going to get very unclear very fast. Otherwise, so.
There's two Kevs on the show. Yeah. So I think what I thought was interesting was we did the commentary on the Rebirth Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer. That is our second most popular episode.
Is it?
Yeah.
Look at it's
the Rebirth trailer thing.
The one we talked about, the Rebirth trailer. Yeah.
Nice,
yeah.
And that's not even a game that's finished. It's just a game they gave us 3 minutes of footage for, and we spent hours talking about it.
Most popular episodes. I think that's what I like about doing these Final Fantasy ones, is because we it's like what we definitely know our shit about.
Yeah.
But I mean, we even were looking forward. Like the second that trailer went up, we were like, episodes. You know,
we
all got really excited.
Didn't you scrap an episode for that one?
Yeah. I felt kind of bad. Myself, Andy, and Chris were meant to do an episode, and I immediately texted them being like, "Guys, I'm sorry, but
it was bad for the podcast that you like openly mocked that topic like while we did the episode. So now we can never go back to that because everyone knows you're like, secondary.
That was a boring topic.
Yeah, we just plucked that from like the areas of when we have nothing to do. Like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel bad. Before we get into it though, guys, I thought, it's been a while since I've chatted to you guys. Aside from 16, which we're going to, delve into deep here, what have you guys been playing? What games have you been getting stuck into? Is there anything you've been playing apart from Final Fantasy 16?
Well, for me, it's been tough because I wanted to get through the second playthrough of Final Fantasy 16, and
impressive.
I didn't quite. I got to Origin like the very, very end. Like the last thing I did before I stopped playing was unlock the Ultima weapon, but I only did that like 2 days ago. And now I'm back playing just a little bit of Advance Wars just to try and wind down from all that.
Nice. And if you're interested in Advance Wars, we have another Games Club episode done on Advance Wars. Thanks for the segue, Craig. Yeah, appreciate it.
Nice.
What about you, Kev?
I've been playing loads of things. I have recently gotten into DMZ and Call of Duty with Aiden, my brother, which has been extremely fun. Like proximity chat, kind of the gunplay is fun. I logged on. And I haven't played in years. The last time I think I played Call of Duty was with Danny Costello when I was younger. And I thought I'd have like my normal gamer tag.
That could ruin the experience for you sometimes.
But I thought I had like the normal gamer tag. And my gamer tag on Modern Warfare is huge ass. So you're killed.
You got huge ass?
I got huge ass, man.
Oh,
JAS, huge ass.
I've got Ned Flanders on mine apparently. Yeah, I was Ned Flanders for a while.
Good one.
Yeah.
But loads of them. That Dredge, I platinumed just before 16 was Unreal. I just finished Death's Door, which is the free PlayStation Plus game.
That's the one you've been trying to get
this month. The Crow one, man, where you're the Crow, but you're also kind of Death.
That's cool.
It's well worth doing. It's a fantastic game. Very funny.
I think I sent you a screenshot on PlayStation. Is he a villain?
No, you're one of like the Crows are like the Reapers, and you go and like collect souls or whatever. But they're in this like they have their own world. And there's like the head crow, and there's crows that just do like desk jobs, and like one of the crows really loves doing paperwork, and the other one's like annoyed because you like lose the soul, and he's like, I'm gonna have to do so much work to rectify this shit, like get out there and find the soul. But it has a really good story. It's very well written. The art style is lovely. The combat's it's kind of like a bit Dark Soulsy, I think.
Okay,
cool. Quite difficult combat, but very rewarding.
Nice. Is it a third party type of thing, or is it like a AAA?
Third party, like it's like an indie game. It's like 800 megabytes or something on the PS5.
Okay, yeah.
Like 2.5 on PS4 and 800 on PS5. So well worth picking up if anyone's looking for something to. Yeah. I think I played. It was like 7 or 8 hours, but like.
But see, the problem
quality.
is, Kev, you recommend this to me, but then recently we started discussing the possibility of all of us returning to Final Fantasy 14 around Reborn.
Dangerous game.
I re-downloaded it and opened up the menu, and that sense of just at ease. It played that Final Fantasy 14 has a particular, like that classic Final Fantasy motif. Final Fantasy 14 has a particular version of that. That's probably one of my. It probably is my favorite version of that classic motif.
Yeah.
And I just had the menu on, looking at the couple of characters that I created in the past, and I was like, oh man, this is such a game.
It's
such a dangerous game.
Dangerous game.
So
man.
I, in anticipation for the winter, because we said it probably wouldn't be a good idea to play that game unless it was miserable weather, because you shouldn't. You should play that game.
It'll
for
suck
the
all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah. So I set up my little office thing of like, reorganizing the apartment a little bit and set up the little office. But I have my PS4 Pro connected into the monitor there as this will be my Final Fantasy 14 room.
when that shit goes down.
When that shit goes down, this is where I'll be for that game. Yeah. Myself, I'm actually playing. I'm still on my Animal Crossing buzz at the minute.
Nice.
I had to do a ton of Final Fantasy 16 recently. I only finished it like 3 hours ago.
Yeah,
4
you
hours
finished
ago.
it today.
Yeah.
You didn't get to, because you were messaging me last night asking how much was left, but you obviously didn't get to finish it.
No, I didn't. I was quite tired last night. I think I went to bed around about 2 last night. Did all the side quests, and I was thinking about going in to do the end of the game, but I was quite tired and I kind of wanted to be awake and enjoy it and whatever else.
Yeah.
So this morning I got up, went to see the folks, came back home, made myself a coffee, sat down in the bean bag, turned it on, and it was only like, it's nice. It was like a nice hour and a half, maybe a little bit to
It's
finish.
just
that last
one
little
fight,
bit's only-
and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no enemies, there's no nothing. It's just the boss fight.
And I was very appreciative of that, because I was like, I've put in a lot of time. Like these last like 2-3 days to get it done, so I didn't need a classic Final Fantasy end game where it's like boss after boss.
Yeah.
Because Torgal doesn't come with you, I assumed it was just going to be an immediate boss fight. Like I was like, there's not going to be any running around, because
there's
I
no
never
support
once
character.
ran around without Torgal. Like that's
Yeah.
not even possible. They probably don't even have the in-engine to do that.
He's always been there.
Yeah,
So playing a lot of that, but before I kind of had to get in to finish that, I was back playing Cities and Skylines, Kev. You and me did a while doing that, and because what got me interested in that was I saw the trailer, the teaser trailer for the announcement
second one?
for the next one, and that looks very, very good. So
that lost so many hours. I think you might have talked about it on the podcast before, but I don't know if I sent it to you, but the YouTuber who's like an actual city planner, and he plays City Skylines, and he's like, and we put all the water pipes under the roads because it's always publicly owned, and so it's best for easy access. I'm like, genius.
Yeah,
genius. So
he was
satisfying.
He was so easy just to listen to. He was just, and if we, it reminded me of like a Bob Ross doing a painting type thing. That kind of like, this guy's very. He was like,
I'd fall asleep watching him all the time, and like throw him on the telly, like on YouTube or whatever, when I get into bed, and I'll just lie on my side and let him lull me to sleep.
Just a little splash of an industrial area around here, and there's a little stroke of a residential.
A little park for some amenities over here, and like, we'll build some pathways. You want to pedestrianize our
had a
city.
nice voice for YouTube videos. Yeah. But enough about all those things, because all those things are, well, some of those things are Final Fantasy 16. But let's get down to the nitty gritty, fellas. Final Fantasy 16 came out June.
Mid
22nd or something.
22nd of June.
Yeah.
Wasn't delayed. Remind me, I need to tell Luke he owes me a pizza.
Yeah.
For it not being delayed. We all thought it'd be. Well, I felt it to be delayed too, but I was just going on the opposite side.
I didn't think
it. Pizza.
I don't know if we talked about this, but because 7 Rebirth is coming out in winter, even if it's the end of winter, they would have been pushing it to delay it at all.
Yeah.
Like they really needed to give it the time.
The gap between them. Yeah. So, so we've all, I finished up playing 16, and I think my clock on it, by the time I finished, it was like 101 hours.
Holy crap.
I'm on 170.
I was 70 or 80, I think, probably 80 by the time I finished my first playthrough.
Because I think, it's all added up, but I think I did the starting bit twice, because I did it with Graham, because he played through, so it's probably a couple extra hours there. But yeah, my finish time, and I didn't get, like, I'm not platinum the game or anything like that, but I'm a bit of a completionist, like did all the side quests and everything like that. So yeah, probably about 80 hours, 80, 90 hours easy to go through that game in completion.
There's some good endgame content for you to get into. I say good endgame content. There is endgame content, and it's enjoyable. Like I can say it to you now because you're at the end. Did you find any like the chronoliths or whatever?
Oh,
I know we'll get into them later on, but like
they're a lot of fun.
The trials.
Yeah, I did the trials at the end and everything else, and I kind of like fleshed out the end game a little bit more for me.
You realize that, man, this is like what it could be like if the game was difficult. Like, 'cause those parts were kind of tough.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. I only tried one trial that we're talking about, and it was the Odin one. I just happened to come across it, and it was the first time I came across one, and they had all woken up. I guess they wake up towards the end of the game.
They wake up, I think, as you get each icon, they become available immediately afterwards.
Very clever.
But no, I don't think it's immediate, because the Odin one was locked for me for a bit, even after I had Odin. Although maybe that was on the second playthrough. and it stayed locked until maybe.
You had to
should have gone
Yeah, I
lost
couldn't get
on-
it. Like you,
because
you
it's-
can't get them instantly on your second playthrough, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just after you get out, and it's in like, you know, you look at the map and you're like, oh, there's a tiny pathway leading to this open area.
The classic-
Like something looks like it should be down here.
Yeah. That's how I found that
So
one.
that's the
as well.
first one I found was the Odin one,
Yeah,
and
'cause-
then I looked it up and realized there was loads of them and went
Yeah.
Odin.
Because I come across a couple of dormant ones during my playthrough, and I was like, I have no idea what these are, and I still have them
Yeah.
on the map. So
Because
that's
he's
good.
like,
I was the
oh,
same.
it's the same as the stone that's in the hideaway. I was like, I've never pressed X on that stone. I
Have
have
you
no
not?
idea what it. No.
I like used to go in there all the time to learn what the abilities did to try and
Oh yeah, okay.
do the combos.
Yeah.
You'd always fight just this one goblin, and I never ever switched it. You could essentially put any bad guy you want in there to play, and you could also set that your move cooldown would be 0. So you know you don't have to like try and test a move at the timing and then wait 30 seconds for it to be able to use it again. You
It
can
was
just
always there.
spam it and get the timing right. You know, so great for those moves that like needed a counter or something. Or,
Yeah.
you know, with precise timing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I guess before we kind of get into, we'll break it down to certain sections. But before we get into it, this is for people who have not finished Final Fantasy 16. The three of us, generally the rule with our games club is we will talk through the game as far as the person who's gotten the furthest. All three of us here have finished the game, so we are talking about the game in its entirety. So if you haven't finished Final Fantasy 16 and you don't want to have anything spoiled for you, finish the game and then listen to this episode.
Yeah. This is not for you.
Here is the spoiler warning
And
dropping right now.
It absolutely won't be in chronological order either. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no,
you
we're
know,
gonna
we're
jump
just
all
gonna
over
get
the
on
place.
tangents all over the place. Yeah.
So we can't give you a direct time. You should turn off the episode. Just finish the damn game and then listen to the episode. You'll love it. It'll be great. So I guess going into the game, Final Fantasy 16, Kev, you made this point very well, like much earlier on in the playing of it, that it wasn't really on your radar.
No.
16 was kind of like that
Same,
like
yeah.
a quiet release almost.
Did you hear how we were talking about 7 Rebirth? That's all I was thinking about once that
Yeah.
trailer came out.
Yeah.
16 was an afterthought.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah. At no point was I ever even like looking into the making of the game or what it's about or who's in it or what way it works. It was just FS16 is coming out next month. Yeah, I guess I'll get that. But all my thoughts are FS7.
Rebirth, yeah, absolutely. But I think that was the nice thing about the game. I mean, we'll go into like our full, like, you know, what kind of rating we give it, or good game, bad game, great game, whatever. But it was such a pleasant surprise for me to get that game, to play that game, and to actually be like bed into it. Like playing it from the get go, I was like, this game is a, and throughout it, like we'll talk about its criticisms and stuff like that. But throughout the game, it's a very, very good game.
Yeah.
Narratively, how the game plays, and a real refreshing thing for Final Fantasy, because, you know, we had 15 before, which had so many problems and so many development problems. It wasn't really I never really felt it was a complete Final Fantasy. Even after they brought out the Royal Edition, I still felt that there was some things that they wanted in the game that never made it.
I just never enjoyed the combat or those Imperial Arms things that drained your health. I'm like, if something drains my health, it's gone. I'm never using it. You know, I do not appreciate that.
This is a bad
So
design.
all these quests to find these deadly weapons, I was like, yeah, but now that I have them, I will never use them.
Yeah.
So like, there's
I'm just a
nothing in
collector.
that for me.
So that game kind of didn't work. Then before that, we had like 13 and 13-2, and to me, that game almost seemed rushed in comparison to the likes of 15. Like if 13-2 came out very quickly after 13, which was quite unusual.
The story in 13 is pure trash.
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, and it's too linear for me as well. It seems very straight line. And then kind of going back a little bit further, 12. Then a decent game, I thought. It plays better when
Had
you
its
can speed
moments.
through. Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a long time since we've kind of had a Final
It's been
Fantasy
10,
reset.
man. 10 was the last game of this caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
think
know,
for sure.
it's up there with 7 through 10. Now, where you rate it in that is whatever, and like it kind of changed as the game went on. But it's like, it's the best Final Fantasy.
It's
since
as good
10,
as
I
those,
think I
but
can
it's
confidently
still the
say.
least different to 7, 8, 9, and 10. Or like still the most different, sorry, to 7,
Oh,
8,
yeah.
9, and 10.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
if
for
it
sure.
doesn't play like any of those, it
No.
just so happens to be as good
Yeah.
as maybe one of those.
And the interesting thing about it is that we're talking about 10 was the last good one we had. That means we've had 21 years since. Now, not taking in 14, like the online games, whatever else, or remake. We're talking about like kind of the linear things. It's been 21 years since we've had a brand new Final Fantasy story. That was good.
That was good. Yeah. It
I mean,
sucks.
15, I've gone on about before. I really did enjoy 15. Like, I cried at the end of 15. I was emotionally invested in the characters. Like, even before the Royal Edition, I enjoyed it. It had lots of problems. but I enjoyed it.
Narratively, 15 is very, very good. I
I
enjoyed the
didn't
storyline.
even finish it. I got only about as far as Leviathan before I was just so burned out because I just done everything
That fight is
else.
awesome.
The Leviathan fight. So my thing about 15 is that narratively the game is very, very good, but I found the combat to be just really poor.
And they had like the chapter, was it like chapter 13 or whatever, that they ended up remaking the entire chapter, and suddenly it was like Metal Gear Solid. Like it was a stealth game. You were sneaking through this warehouse, and it like played terribly and took ages. It was not good.
Just really badly designed, and the magic system in 15 I think is probably
no point using spells ever.
No,
like, the cost is crazy.
Yeah, the worst magic system I think in a Final Fantasy game.
You can cast maybe 2 to 3 times before you have to go fucking
refill
all that crap again, like the lanterns and stuff.
And then we come to 16. So I guess let's talk. I mean, I have a couple of points here, and I guess the best thing for me, what was one of the best parts?
You just know. I was just gonna say we should stick a bit to your layout and your questions and stuff, because this really does have potential to just go off on the maddest tangents. Like anytime we've hung out and talked about it, it's like you can't shut us up. Keep us on track.
I'll do my best.
This is going to be incoherent otherwise.
Like a 3-hour long review. You know? Okay, so let's go for one of the first points I have to bring up was the narrative, and the reason I wanted to bring that up first is because from a Final Fantasy perspective, I think it is. Out of all of the Final Fantasies, including 7, I think it is the strongest narrative start to finish.
Oh, how dare you. Oh my god. It's because you include FF7. I'm just like, but it is the FF7 story. Almost carbon copied, like with the magic being drawn out of the planet and it absorbing the life stream. So with this, like the main villain, even in this final fight, he had a one wing, and there was
he
looked just like Sephiroth firing that fucking beam.
And they had a motif, a little one-winged angel. Like motif.
They were blatantly copying FF7 there.
No, so in the baseline, in terms of, I would agree that in terms of what was happening to the planet was very similar to 7. Everything else was.
That's almost all of the story.
No, it's no. I mean, if you
that discrimination between bearers, granted, that's a new aspect we haven't seen.
But all of the other characters and the conflicts that Clive had with all these individuals, none of that really happened in 7. You don't get any of that. It's to me, yes, what's happening to the planet is a similar Final Fantasy story, but that's, I mean, you could say the same for kind of 6 almost. That's kind of like the Final Fantasy trope. There's the big bad guy who's going to destroy the world. That's kind of the trope. I mean, everything that happens between A and Z, I thought was some of the most coherent, strong narrative that a Final Fantasy game has had ever, I think.
Maybe in the first 10 hours, but then after that, I was like, now it's very much go to that crystal, fight the summon, and then repeat that 4 times. Like, that for me was the narrative. Once it reached the halfway point, it just became the typical Final Fantasy.
Yes, and I wouldn't disagree with that, actually. I think the start of the game is the first half of the game is
the first 10 hours are the best in the game. Easy. I think. And then it gradually, for me, got worse and got more familiar and got more obvious,
Yeah, I think it got a little bit more obvious. The first 10 hours were extremely strong, and we were all like losing our mind over it. And as the game went on, it kind of got more and more outrageous and leaned more and more towards what you were saying, the Final Fantasy trope and the big bad guys behind it all. But I still think that the strength of the voice acting and the characters and the cultures and I really enjoyed all of the missions towards the crystals. I know you were saying the other day, I thought it was very funny, Craig was like, they always go in the back door. Like, they always know what a back door is, the secret entrance to the crystal. It happens every time.
There's never any people anywhere, like anytime you do anything, you only see who you absolutely have to see. And no one else. Like, as I was saying with the Ironborn, there's the leader, and then there's that girl who looked after Jill, and then that's it. There's nobody else other than like the default generic bad guys with a mask on.
I think so. But I think the explanations get weaker and weaker as they go. But what I like is when you're going into the back door to Kupka's place, Sid had already tried to break in there, so you take Sid's route, through that broken place, the broken wall part.
That's in Sandbreck.
That's Sandbreck, when you're destroying the Sandbreck crystal.
Sorry, the Sandbreck one. Yeah. So that was a cool one. And then with Jill's one, I respected that one in that Jill knew the lay of the land, so you can get in the back door there. The other ones are a little bit like, let's just go in the back way. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. Oh, you can just do that. Okay. Well, there's no guards posted or anything like that. So I think those kind of things are weak. But I mean, as you said, Kev, the voice acting.
The voice acting is exceptional.
Is it? Yeah, Clive. What's the guy's name?
Ben Starr.
Ben Starr, man. I've been like on the YouTube shorts or whatever. He keeps popping up and he's hilarious. Like just a complete dork.
Yeah.
One of the boys.
A complete
And-
gamer.
Yeah.
Like
He had the ability to tank that game if he didn't give a good performance, but he clearly cared
He
an awful
carried it,
lot.
man. Yeah.
Like if he had been if he had been the voice actor for Titus, the game would have been terrible. You know, like just instantly. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And like, because there are so many things. You said it. There's that point where in the storyline where you are reintroduced to Clive's horrible mother, and it's almost like a
Such a
family.
bitch, man.
And it's almost like a family reunion part. And she's kind of, even though she's definitely got her back up against the wall in this scenario, and everything's going to shit. She is like Lena on Clive and still giving Clive like, you know, the fuck you and you made
love
my
to
life
hate
hell.
her.
And you do love to hate her. And
But
his
she's
performance,
she's my least favorite character in the whole game.
Yeah.
Like I just couldn't understand her motives or anything.
She was
like,
just
You're the
mean.
most villain for the sake of being a villain.
Yeah.
You're like Cersei Lannister, just a fucking mean, horrible bitch.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Desperate for power and willing to throw everyone under the bus to get
Yeah.
it. Like
but the delivery of Clive's reaction to her giving out about her
Amazing.
lot in life, and he loses it, but it's so real. Like, I mean, and lots of his bits. Funny enough, when I got to the end of the game, there's again spoilers. Do not keep listening to the show here, but the bit with Joshua at the end, I thought that was a bit weak by his comparison.
What,
Where he's
sorry, Joshua at the end.
where he's crying over Joshua's.
I really enjoyed that.
It was
especially the words where he goes, "My brother." Like the way like he delivered a couple of the lines there, I was like, surely this is really, really difficult, you know, like to
do.
cry, to sob
Yeah.
that someone's dying.
But
it was so believable to me. I liked it.
So I'm glad you guys did, because I loved him throughout. But that last little bit, and I played it today, do you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, it's a little bit weak. And not weak. It's just there's some of his his crying there was like almost like
Like it was
almost
sobbing,
laughing.
like uncontrollable.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
that. But I was like, what would I do? And that when as
Yeah,
soon as
you'd
I
be
heard him, I was
sobbing.
like, I was thinking to myself, what would I do? And I'm like, it wouldn't be believable at all.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, here's me criticizing him, but if you put me, all right, Darren, cry over your dead brother, please, and I'd be like,
That's what I do.
Usually those are like the weakest moments in most video games when that shit happens. So the fact that you just thought he wavered slightly is still very good. Like I think, you know,
very strong.
He just committed so much to each of the and it was the script was well written. Like a lot of the lines were good, and then he delivered them super well. And I found it very that part I found very believable, where he's like sobbing, and it's just like it's almost hard to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, when someone's that upset that you're like, ooh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like,
That bit-
uncontrolled.
And at the beginning of the game at Phoenix Gate, where he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, because that, you know, he doesn't realize that he's Ifrit and he's, you know, wailing on Joshua, and he's like screaming. I was kind of like, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
like that's the effect that I think it's meant to have. Do you know what I mean? It's,
Of course,
it's
yeah.
a person going absolutely fucking raging over the situation or whatever.
He's brilliant. And because you were talking about that scene in Sam Breck during the Bahamut sequence, which Niall is currently playing. My phone keeps vibrating. I'm sure there's loads of
he's going
photos.
through the exciting bits. Yeah.
But when he's talking to the mother, and it's the first time he's seen her for ages, and you know he realizes Joshua's alive and he's flying around, and like he starts going on to the mother about all the pressure everyone put on Joshua when he was a kid, and like why he ended up the way he did, and blah blah blah. And he's just fantastic, man. He's so believable. And like as he's talking, he's just getting angrier and angrier.
he's working
and
himself
angrier.
up.
I'm
Yeah.
like, where is he
Cool.
pulling this from? I was like, fair dues to this guy. Like,
Brilliant,
where is he
man.
pulling this from? Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I think the narrative is helped massively by the quality of, as you said, Kev, the script writing and the voice actors that were
I
in
still
it.
don't think all the voice actors did a great job. I just think the ones that were most important, Clive, Joshua, really nailed it. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Sid,
But that's not
Craig.
for everyone. I strongly disagree.
I love
Sid,
Sid, man.
man.
That's
But
crazy.
I can't. So tell me again. So I mean, when the game had come out and people were playing through, you know, the start of it, and Sid was kind of like everyone, you know, the internet was like, I fucking love Sid. Sid's the coolest, you know, Final Fantasy character to come out in ages. What were your first thoughts of Sid? What irked you about
if you
Sid?
just look at his character model, he looks like 40 maybe at best.
Yeah.
And he is slick hair, young man's face, not a single wrinkle. And then he's like, how you doing there, lads? Like, it's just so raspy for such a clean-shaven, handsome guy. And because I've seen that actor in so many things, like Game of Thrones, and like, he's not the most handsome-looking lad, but at least his face really imparts the way he talks.
Yeah.
And in this game in particular, so many of the characters looked a certain way, but once they spoke, you're like, that made zero sense. Like, there's one scene in particular. Do you know when the first time you go to the hideout and one of the guys behind the bar gives you a meal to give to 3 guys?
Yeah.
I remember walking over to this guy and he's like, oh, hey, Sonny, thank you for bringing the food to me. And I was like, he looks younger than I do. Like, it made no, like, I was like, he looks like 25 and they're doing an old man voice.
But
And
Final
I'm like, this is
Fantasy,
so silly.
Final Fantasy games have always suffered from that. One of the things that I thought was very interesting, having played through Horizon Forbidden West, where the quality of NPCs in terms of graphics and voice acting is insanely good, like outrageously good. And we come to, let's say, Final Fantasy VII Remake, a hugely successful game. You still have shitty looking NPCs with really...
I know, there's about 20 of them, and then you walk a few feet and you just see them
the same one again.
Yeah.
So
So sometimes it'd be like 2 or 3 of them that are the same person, like
the same
talking to
area.
each other. You're like,
I always found it absolutely terrible if you would ever like talk to an NPC and in the frame you can see an identical NPC. I'd like, at least move him out of the shot, like, you
Out of
know,
camera
or just
frame.
use the 7 that you have in this shot. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, I mean, narratively, I think in terms of the end of the game, I really enjoyed for the fact. No, like I enjoyed the narrative throughout the whole thing. I think the strongest part of the game is absolutely the start, and I think one of the best sequences is getting on top of the Castle Nova.
Kaer Norvent.
Kaer Norvent. That's
That
what
is
it
my favorite part of the game too.
Yeah. Where
going
you
through with Kaer Norvent
and you
to
go
try and get Benedicta, who
Yes.
is easily my favorite character.
yes,
great villain, yeah.
And it's a pity that she was the first one.
I couldn't believe that happened, especially because when she got away, I was like, oh, excellent, she escapes. Now we're going to be dealing with her throughout the game.
Yeah.
And then she just goes mad and that's it. She's gone.
Yeah.
You know?
And like that part was I think was so strong because it was so different for a Final Fantasy game. Like what I was doing was very different from other Final Fantasy games. Here I am like storming a keep in very kind of Game of Thrones medieval style stuff, but with like that incredible voice acting. And I am under the belief that, oh my God, is this Joshua that's here in the castle? Like Jimmy, because at that point the character is hooded. You don't know who they are. They've just got their Yote, their servant with them or whatever.
Yeah. But even Benedicta's being a bit like she stabs Yote to
Yeah.
try and get him to talk, and she's just twisting the swords. And I'm like, you were a great villain. Like,
Yeah.
this
She's
is
fantastic
classic stuff.
and fantastic voice acting. Like she was spot on.
Like she was so mean. Like even
Yeah.
like, do you know where her own guard runs back to be like, oh, there's rebels chasing me, and then she just kills him. For being weak. You know? It's like, that's proper Darth Vader bad guy type shit. Like,
Yeah.
And her character was made all the better because there was a part of her that used to be good. Like
that Sid recognized.
The Sid recognized, and
They had their
he, when Sid and Clive have the conversations early on, Sid alludes to a person that he couldn't save, and I assume he was just talking about Benedicta, that he was like, I'll try and find the good in everybody, but there was just one person I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I love that, like that background where she was at one point just someone who was, in the Imperial Army along with Sid and had a kind-ish heart. And
Yeah.
and then at one point Sid was like, this is all fucked, I'm leaving, and couldn't bring her with him, which was like the sad part. And she still has a thing for him as well. You can tell like the anger in her that he left or whatever, and now she's kind of like messing around a little bit with Kupka.
Well, she's kind of like sleeping with everyone.
Yeah. She's
the
Barnabas,
king of Waloed,
yeah.
Hugo Kupka, and of course it was Sid. I'm just like, who is she loyal? Who is she in love with at this very moment? Probably no one. I love realistically, she could be just screwing over all three. Like,
I think she had a thing for Sid. I think Sid was probably someone that she actually had a fondness for. Where I think Barnabas and Kupka were a means to an end to kind of help her status or whatever.
Yeah.
Because some of her dialogue when she's talking to Clive when Sid's there, and she immediately gets angry talking to Sid, like, and that kind of stuff makes me like, oh, there's a lost thing.
Yeah,
there.
there's history there, or whatever.
Well, it does
else,
say that her and Sid came to Waloed to the king at the same time, like years before. So they knew each other arriving at Waloed and before they took up a position.
So the start of the game is very, very strong, and what I appreciated about the narrative towards the end is where Final Fantasy games historically across the board, I can't think of one that's ever ended well. they always have this really long, like, 7, the Genova, the Sephiroth destroying all the planets. It's a bit like too much.
It's a bit
then
much.
8 is like, oh, they were all in the orphanage
7's
together.
better than 8.
Oh yeah, 7's better than 8. Yeah, absolutely.
But
Then-
they're all universally bad.
yeah, their endings are bad. Like the game is great, but the ending's bad. This to me was the strongest ending out of every Final Fantasy.
It was one of the least ridiculous, over the top endings.
Yeah.
It still was a little bit ambiguous. I feel like
They all are.
but they all are.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I actually liked Ultima as a bad guy.
Oh,
And
fuck
I
Ultima.
feel like, well, I liked him more than Ultimecia or
Yeah.
whatever.
But
was at the end
Ultimecia
of
was manipulating
9 Garland
Eddie
or
and,
whoever.
like, living through her. Like Ultima would just be like contemplating. You must have like he must have said consciousness about 100 times.
Yeah.
They
without
did,
understanding what it worked, what it meant. Like I was
go
like, how
through a
can
phase
someone
of
so
that.
smart be so fucking dumb? Like you know.
So I think, as you say, Kev, it's the most coherent, and it is, and it's so ambiguous because I only finished it today. But like at the end credit scene, it was like it literally ends with saying, "And as one journey ends, ... and obviously you say to yourself, "Well, another begins." It doesn't even say another begins, but it ends with this whole like, diddy type thing, or what's going to happen now. But no, I love that. I love that ending. I love that the three of them. I love that Dion was there at the end, and Joshua and Clive, like those three, and like that's what I liked about the story as well. In that it was brave enough to say, hey, Clive's the main guy, but we're okay bringing all these other side characters. Let's say Joshua has made friends with, and he's there because of a thing that's happening in the background. Like we're not privy to all this kind of stuff, and I like that. And even from Clive's perspective, he's just accepting of like, oh, you trust this person, okay.
He only pretty much talks to Dion once or twice in the whole game. Like.
Yeah.
But Joshua has a whole meeting with Dion and a whole trying to.
Because there's a moment, right, where Joshua's like, I owe him a favor or whatever, and Clive kind of stops for like a half a second. He's like, okay, like,
I'll pick up and
let's
save
just deal
him.
with it. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no
But
questions
Clive
asked.
would have just left him there for dead. Like.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Because it was shocking he survived in the first place.
Yeah,
Like.
but the three of them going off and the understanding or the kind of the atmosphere, the mood with everybody on the or at the hideout, and they're all leaving ready to go, and everybody's quite upset. I'm like, oh, this is like, I mean, Dion definitely is considering this a suicide mission, but I'm getting, is it a suicide mission for Joshua?
The fact
Clive?
that the developers made them all give their farewells, even though every single time they left on a mission to destroy a crystal, they should have said their goodbyes in the same manner, because like the odds of success should have been ridiculously low every single time they left the hideout. Like, so there's no reason to think that this is any more difficult than any of the other missions, because they were all preposterous, Let's sneak into an enemy country, get past all their guards, destroy a crystal and a big icon, and then get the hell out of it. And then Clive would just show up, job done, like every single time they should have done those scenes, but to the point where I knew
Craig,
it was all going to end
now,
horribly. Like,
now they're fighting a god. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but they were fighting the icons as well.
Yeah,
and
but I
countries.
think it was a different. Like, I think it kind of, as you got towards the end, the mood was exactly what you said. That like, all right, this last mission, like, make sure all your affairs are in order. Like,
but that's
it.
That's them telling the player, not Clive, what they need to do, because we know it's the final battle, because we have to get our affairs in order. But Clive shouldn't know that,
Clive definitely knows that. He's going into the crystal to fight Ultima after fighting all the icons and everything else. Like,
I mean, it's a hard
it's the
fight.
big
I just
bad
think
guy.
every one of those other crystal fights was a suicide mission as well.
I mean, potentially. But what I mean to say is, what I like about that is the three of them go off, with the anticipation it's the suicide mission.
Yeah.
And there was a point, so, Bahamut does, Dion does his bit as Bahamut's quite cool, and he kicks the bucket, that's him gone, and
Well, I don't know if he died. I mean, Dragoons don't take fall damage, right? So, I mean, he's fallen loads of times and been fine. Like,
I think, true. We didn't see his dead body, but I'm assuming that
I would
died.
hope that him and Clive died and that Joshua survived.
Joshua's definitely dead, isn't he? Didn't Joshua die in Clive's arms?
Yeah.
But then he had the power of Ultima, and then he...
he
heals
like
the
tried
wounds.
to heal him.
No,
and then it
but
didn't,
no, he heals the wound and then
Oh.
looks at his hand and goes, "This is too much power for one man."
No, so he doesn't actually have too much power for one man. He says he was like, even as a vessel, I'm not strong
enough to wield this power.
Yes,
but he'd already healed Joshua after he said that.
No, I think
he did.
No,
I remember it.
He cleaned the wounds, but Joshua never woke up.
I know Joshua never did, because they're not going to admit what's just happened, and Clive doesn't even know if he's healed him or not. He just doesn't look back.
Well, he
doesn't talk about Joshua from that moment. He just kind of looks at his hand and is like, oh, I see, like, this is actually too much power for my vessel anyway, so I wasn't ready to wield this. and then he casts some sort of spell that we don't know what it is, and then the next time you see him, that hand, similar to Thanos, is all dissolving and like it's become petrified,
Yes,
you know,
much like the
because he
bearer's
used too
curse.
much power in his
Yeah.
arm. But it's only his arm that shows as petrified, so he could still be fine, you know.
He could still be alive.
I would just prefer it if he did die, Dion did die, but Joshua lived.
I would prefer
Because
if
he
all
made
three
the
died.
sacrifice and he was the shield, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be okay with Joshua living, I suppose, but I definitely took it that Joshua was dead. I took it that when Clive healed Joshua, he healed like his flesh.
Yes.
But why would
But it
anyone...
was still like he's still dead. Can't bring him back to
I
life.
mean, both scenarios are equally possible. I just think he would have like teared up if he was unsuccessful.
But I think he already had. So the way I saw that scene when I was playing it today was, I think he already mourned the death of Joshua and came back being like, well, I've got the power of ultimate, can I heal him? Probably not. Tries it, doesn't do it, and he's mourned him already, and he's like, okay, well, this vessel isn't strong enough to take Ultima's power that I can just bring people back from the dead or whatever else. So I guess I better use whatever power I can do to destroy this. And what I like is that he just resets everything, because you get that scene at the very end of the game, which is obviously generations into the future.
So there's different interpretations of that. So you're reading it that like, yes, this is in the future when those kids are at play.
Yeah.
But more realistically, the events of the game never happened, and that Final Fantasy is the book that's on the table, and that none of these events ever happened. That it's all just a story.
This is like the Maximilian dude big brain theory, that like the book itself that's, you know, written by Joshua's like a moniker or whatever else, and it's like the Final Fantasy, and it's just a story, and it's to teach kids. Like, it's about magic and everything else, but to teach kids that, like, you know, you have to put in the hard work and morals and blah, blah, blah.
I didn't
take it that way,
that.
and I disagree with it as an opinion. But
for me, it's also just one of those cases where, like, it's open to interpretation.
Yes.
So everything's true and everything's
they did
false.
it with a lot. Like, they didn't show Dion's dead body. They didn't show Clive dead.
Yeah,
they just showed him on a beach with one petrified hand.
Yeah.
Like,
Which falls to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because and like that, we'll get to it at the end of the episode where we talk about kind of like what do we think is in the future for Final Fantasy 16. But as a whole, I think, do we agree? Good narrative, main storyline.
The first half, yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
I enjoyed the whole narrative. I thought there was some of the side quest parts were a little bit weak. They got better as the game went on. I thought almost all the main line was great. There were some outrageous moments. The big Titan fight. Going to space, but you go to space all the time in Final Fantasy, so it's fine. We're a bit ridiculous, but like right up to the end, I thought the narrative was very good. I thought Dion was a fantastic character. Clive, Joshua, Jill. There was loads of like, Jill annoyed me at the start, but she got better. There was loads of great character arcs. There was conclusions, satisfying conclusions to a lot of those character arcs. Like, I really thought it was
for me, it felt like whoever wrote the game was one person, and he used his fucking whatever what's the word? Whatever kind of personality he has, I thought he put on every single other character, to the point where, like, if you go to the hideout, universally, every single person in the hideout is a very good person who never says a bad word or does anything wrong. But if you go to Sandbreck or Waloed, it's the exact opposite. So you only have absolute heroes and absolute villains, and there's no shady people in between.
Well,
like,
I mean,
I don't
Karen,
think that's true.
we did Karen's side quest, right? The shopkeep.
Karen, yeah,
she pulled someone's eye out.
Yeah, okay.
There's like,
but I mean, she's the clear-hearted gold who's been like putting her own money into the hideout for generations, and like has essentially just kept the whole thing afloat forever.
Yes, but
like,
she's not black and white. She's not.
I know she's not
villain.
black and
She's
white.
not
Like she's a classic. Like, oh, I don't care if you come back here, blah blah blah. But clearly has the heart of gold and will do anything to save.
Yeah,
her
but was a
friends.
horrible wench
horrible
of a-
for ages.
before she-
Yeah.
So that's what. So I don't necessarily think I'd agree with saying that for every character. I think there's a lot of optimism in the hideout, which I appreciated, but also at times I was like, people should probably be a little bit more pessimistic about what's going on right now because it sucks.
But what the game is missing hugely is the banter between characters, because everyone talks to Clive. Never, like Dion and Joshua have a couple of moments here which are nice, but generally speaking, Jill has nothing with Joshua, or Jill has nothing with Dion or Sid or any of this stuff, and
it's very Clive.
It's very Clive central, and even because in the order in which you do the side quests, you don't necessarily have to have Joshua or Jill or Sid with you. So during most side quests, they remain completely silent because the game doesn't know who you have with you. So it doesn't give them dialogue.
Yeah.
So from the most part, it's just Clive doing a mission while whoever's with him just stands there.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that those type of things will happen in Remake Part 2, because that's the original FF7 is full of that shit where like they don't make any of the characters talk because they don't know who's with you, so they just leave it blank. And I'm like, I hate that stuff.
What,
I
in
wish
the
it was more-
OG7?
In the OG7.
In the
yeah.
OG7, don't they have like loads of voice lines written for very specific circumstances?
There's
like
like,
the one,
maybe 3 or 4 per character, and that's like 3 or 4 lines of dialogue
yeah.
per character ever. In most situations, like when Yuffie robs you and the character's like, oh, what happened to my stuff? No matter what 2 characters you have in your party, they will say the same words of dialogue, no matter who it is. No matter if it's Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, anyone. The dialogue doesn't change. It's just
Yuffie does call Tifa boobs in that situation. If you have Tifa as the leader of the party when Cloud is crazy and you get Yuffie then, Yuffie refers to Tifa as boobs.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
That
yeah,
is
I only
awesome.
found out recently. Yeah, fun Final Fantasy 7 fact.
So okay, so narratively, I think it's a strong game. I get where you're coming from, Craig. I think,
But,
there's
like-
I
some
think it was very strong.
character flaws.
Jill was the weakest character in the whole game for me. I was really underwhelmed by the relationship
Yeah.
between her and Clive, especially that nothing happened in the 5 years and it all happened pretty much a week before
Yeah.
they had died. And I was like, you were 5 years together building a new hideout, doing
Yeah.
this, doing that, and the other, and you only touch hands like close to the end of the
Can
game.
I just
Fuck's
bring
sake.
up probably one of my least favorite, because like the cutscenes for developing the narrative were always very, very good. One of my least favorite scenes in its entirety thing is where they end up on the beach in the nude, in the nip. And they have some sort of weird anime sex scene where it's like, it's just alluding to the fact they're going to have sex, but it's all about Clive just taking her power.
You have to remember that this is a Japanese developed game, and Benedicta also was naked loads of times pointlessly.
No.
Like-
No, the nudity I don't mind. What I'm saying is that the whole... So...
they were inventing scenarios for them to take off their clothes. Let's
but
not
no,
take anything away from that. That
True,
was
true.
clearly them. Just
But
being
I don't mind that. But I'm going to say
pervy.
is that scene was really, really strange in that him taking her power was almost like
Almost sexual.
was
like.
almost sexual.
And
yeah.
then they had sex.
And then it was a really weird scene, totally unnecessary.
I know what you mean, and it's funny because I was playing that with you, and you and Lauren both said that when you were playing it. But when I played it originally, I didn't really notice that at all. I just saw it as like, all right, he's taking her power. And she's
I
giving
just
it to
thought he
him.
was
There
just
no, like,
improving his own strength finally. And I
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
wondering, like,
I didn't-
the fact that every other power up you've ever done, like Benedicta, Hugo, even Odin and Bahamut, every single time he absorbed the power, it always happened accidentally. He never once attempted to do it. It just kind of happened because he got near them. He spent 5 years with Jill.
Yeah.
And at no point did the power ever get transferred. Like, I'm like, that's fucking bullshit.
Maybe they
It's
maybe they don't
absolutely
need it to
impossible.
be weakened, or they needed
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
be willing at the time. Do you know, like it wouldn't just spontaneously happen because he was near someone who's an.
I mean, I call it bullshit, but I mean, it's still like it needed to happen. Like,
Yeah.
but when he absorbed the power, never for a second did I think that, oh, now Jill can no longer fight. I just assumed she'd be grand, but then you never have her again on your team.
She does know. She helps out. She helps out when you're like fighting Odin and stuff. She creates like the big when you're fighting Odin underwater. Is that before? Oh no, you get Shiva after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in that scene, she just shows up with Dion and Gav. Like, she wasn't with you the whole time at all. She just shows up. You and Joshua get teleported off by Ultima.
Oh.
And then she's left fighting with the others. And
Yeah.
then she has that scene with the ice where she remains behind.
But
But,
they
you
do-
never play as her again until you finish her
Final
final
quest.
side
And
quest.
then you can
but even
remember
then, the game's over.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I only thought that when I was doing that last night. I said, well, there's nothing for me to play with Jill on my team. So what's the point?
Her quest was the last one I did on my first playthrough because I wanted to get their kind of romantic send off, so I left it till last, and it just meant that I didn't get to play as Jill for like the final third of the game.
Yeah.
I would say, like, and she's with you for almost the entire game during the 5 years in which you were setting up everything. So she was a really, really important character, and then she just gets benched out of nowhere because Joshua's back.
Yeah. She was a disappointing character for me too. In that, she at the start of the game, I think she's quite strong. Young Jill, I was a big fan of, like in terms of like she's really looking out for Clive and all that type of stuff. But yeah, she kind of. And it's disappointing because it's kind of the trope that I'm kind of tired of. She really plays the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
For
She gets
a lot of the
kidnapped
game.
a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And as well, like the first time you're fighting Hugo Kupka and you fight a boss on your way to Hugo Kupka and you beat the boss, and then after the cutscene, Hugo Cooper is just holding Jill out of nowhere. You know, like I'm like, when did that happen? When did he get behind us?
Yeah,
like it was really irritating.
Yeah, so so I think there's good
Plus,
characters, bad characters.
Like she should have, like, because it said that her dad was the king of a northern territory, and like that was a rebellion that they had to put down at some point. It was really wasted potential that you never went there, or you never saw her dad or any of her people where she's from, like at all. Like, you know, her backstory got changed to be Iron Blood, even though she has no affiliation with them whatsoever.
Because her land also come to the Blight.
Yeah,
and then she was captured by the Ironborns after the Phoenix Gate incident, and then was used as a weapon by them until you save her.
Right, yeah. Like she's much better at the start of the game than she is by the end of the game. Like
I actually enjoyed Jill's story once. She was really lame for a while, and then when you went back to the Ironborn place to destroy the crystal.
But did you see how lame she was during that fight, with her raising her sword up in like this, and she's like, "I will defeat you." And she takes this stupid pose. I'm just like, man, you look ridiculous right now. Even the way she stabs him, it's like, "You are dead now." Like she's just doing all these stupid poses that I'm just like, man, the voice actor is really fucking up here. Like, you know?
I really liked her.
Well, I'm glad you did, Kev. Yeah. So because we are stomping through the time of this episode here, and we have covered like 2 things on the list here. Let's go to kind of like the world itself and look at kind of, I guess, like the land masses, the groups that exist there, and the enemies. So to kind of to go into it first, I'll talk about the enemies. My biggest gripe with the game is the variety of enemies in this world.
Yeah, you will hate New Game Plus then, because in every single fight they throw in a mini boss into like anytime there's like say 10 random enemies with just health, they'll throw an enemy in with a stagger bar every time. So it just means, you know, that like executioner type bad guy, you'll fight 100 more of him on New Game Plus.
And considering that the world what we're talking about is massive, the twins, we're talking about 2 huge land masses, the variety of enemies is just so. And Kev, you and me talked about this, and you know, we've got a hunt board where you go out and hunt, and we think of, you know, we're talking about Final Fantasy 16. We've had 15 other iterations with all of their own enemies in it. They have a huge wealth of classic Final Fantasy enemies to pull from, and they don't pull from
Cactuar, no Tonberry.
But that is because in nearly all of those games, those enemies have 1 or 2 attacks, so 1 or 2 different animations, whereas in this, they have to be staggered. They have like various moves. They're moving all over the place. Like just that first Dragoon fight that I was talking to you about, it blew my mind how much he kept fucking jumping all over the place. Like I was like, this guy is worthy of a final boss by himself.
Yeah.
And he was just a kind of common halfway boss enemy. Yeah. But he blew my mind the first time I fought him. I couldn't believe the enemies were moving around and doing so much. And you see that a lot in your first playthrough because they're just throwing new enemies at you constantly. But I was like, this will have to slow down eventually. Because
and it does. Yeah.
They have so many intricate moves that I was like, there's no way they're going to have 100 of these. Like, it's impossible.
And I know, and like it is a good point to say that they have to animate all these guys. But I think, and that's one of my points about the world in and of itself, in that I loved how big it was, but perhaps they might have been better making the scope a little bit
I would have got rid of Mid and everything to do with the airship. Like get rid of all of that, because it was always just fetch quests. Anything associated with Mid was fetch quest, but if she was out of it, it would just be go to the crystal and beat the boss. And I'm like,
there was
it'd be a much more streamlined game.
I really liked Mid as a character.
In your second playthrough, you will not, because like when you really want to get into the nitty gritty fighting, that just keeps stopping you from continuing.
Yeah, slowing you down.
And those you can't skip. You know, most of the side quests is like, okay, you can just kind of skip it, but this is blatant side quests in the main story.
Yes,
you know?
yeah. Picking her to face. So yeah, the enemies in the world. Kev, you and me talked about one of our favorite things was the fact that we had very different kingdoms with their own cultures, and starting with the Phoenix and that group.
Yeah, man, the start of the game, that was, I text you almost immediately in the first few hours when you're back and you're on the way to Phoenix Gate, and they're all sitting around the castle and having drinks, and they start singing songs, and all the songs have lyrics that are about the Phoenix. The armor looks like the Phoenix. They're like religious and cultural practices are based around their icons. Like, I love that. And I know you were saying, Craig, that they needed more of that, and they definitely could have sprinkled more of that throughout the game. It would have helped. But like, I really loved the distinct cultures throughout the game, and like the different, I felt like all the territories and all the cities and all the like city states and everything else felt like their own thing, which I really enjoyed.
I did. Well, I mean, even with Lude, we never saw, like, because everyone is already dead, and the Iron Blood, we never even go there. We only see the crystal place, and like every single Ironborn person has a mask on, so I have no idea what their culture is or what even their land looks like.
So yeah, so there's two two arguments that could be made here. One, the game is 100 hours long. Well, like 90 hours long if you're like doing all the side quests, everything like that. Do we need more? Is there enough there? Do we need to know everything? Would be one point of argument. And the second one I'd say is, well, is it probably more beneficial for them to, let's say, maybe take one or two of them out and develop the other ones that exist in the world a little bit more?
I think they should have. Especially, do you know the way, like, because at the active time lore, which I think is the best thing they could have added to any Final Fantasy, I think it's brilliant. But if you look at the active time lore, and it can show you the paths over the different times. Yes. But at the very start of the game, Waloed are sending their assassination team, whereas Sandbreck are sending their assassination team, and it's the Ironblood versus the Dalmekian Republic, while the other like countries are all involved doing their own thing. But by the time you get to like Cid's death, like when it's showing the active time lore, the other countries aren't doing anything anymore. Like, it was very involved at the start with everyone doing different things, but by the halfway point, it's just Cid's group moving around, and everyone in the world is just remaining completely still.
I think isn't part of that due to the fact that, you know, certain kingdoms at this stage, with the fact that Phoenix Gate was taken, isn't that now that you've almost got a stalemate, that two kingdoms become a lot stronger because of what happened in 837.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a lot going on. Like Sandbreck takes over Rosaria or whatever. Then there's the break. Then they take over the twins or whatever it is.
And like then that's it for me. Like the pretty much after that,
the entire time Dalmekia and them are warring. But yeah, at that stage, there's only two kingdoms essentially on the island, and like the Ironbloods doing some raids, and they're fighting.
But they haven't had a raid since the Shiva fight 5 years prior. We have no idea what they're doing in between that time.
Well, I meant like raiding like little villages or whatever. But what I mean is that it's like Sandbreck and Dalmekia are the two major powers, and then Waloed on the other island. And it has become kind of a stalemate where it's like, oh, we're at war. Like, they're trying to take over the Crystalline Dominion from us again. We could send the Icons out, but then Titan's busy with Clive, and then you get the whole section of Bahamut where he's going to go out, and they don't want to destroy the cities. And
the Icons are this whole thing where they're basically nuclear deterrents.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're weapons of mass destruction.
But that made me feel more like, as soon as Hugo Kupka died, I think every single minister in Dalmekian Republic should have been fucking running around looking for that baby who's the new Titan. Like, you know, that should have been priority one.
But that was what we were saying the other day. We don't know yet where, like, is he born straight away? Does he show himself later in life? Is like the person born as the icon and then they develop the things, or
those are things the game should have told us or fleshed out, because that to me is very important. And they just went, we can kind of do whatever we want with that.
It's quite important because it's the scene towards the end of the game where you meet that girl Eda, and she's pregnant. And I thought, I was like,
for me, it's like the baby's clearly going to be the next Odin or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I kind of, because I was like, oh, this baby's being born, and that's where I was kind of thinking, maybe they should say, because they allude to certain things whereby Clive was brought to Phoenix Gate and didn't have the power of the Phoenix, and Joshua was born then, and he showed signs of it from quite early. So it's like, well, is it obvious from birth? It's only when they get into like their adolescent years that this is shown?
Remember we were saying that the reason Dion and his family came to power is because Dion like presented as the icon Bahamut. But then
his dad took the emperor role, just piggybacking off.
But
of his
it sounds like he took that on. And again, I could be wrong because I don't think they ever explain it. But I always took it that as he got older, he developed these. Not that he was like born and they do some spell or say a prayer and say, oh, he's Bahamut. Yeah. Like at some stage he manifested or he semi-primed or something.
Clearly that is what happened to Joshua. Like some sort of spell or ritual did happen where Joshua was supposed to get it, and the same thing happened to Clive.
Yeah,
whereas Jill just fucking switched it on one day randomly. They didn't develop
there isn't any, and you're right. And I think it's one of those things where part of my argument before was kind of saying, well, hey, leave it up to our imagination and we can think what we want. But for something like that, it's so integral to the storyline as to for us for big fans who step away after finishing the game and think on all the different things. Yeah. I'd love to know, well, actually, hang on, is there rules for this? Yeah. Like, is the world, because they talk about Leviathan the Lost. Why was Leviathan lost? Did the person who was the icon Leviathan leave?
Yeah. Don't have him don't mention 8 icons, then not have the 8th icon in it, and don't explain where he is. That's it. there's just so many parts of the game where I'm like, no, clearly they wanted more in the game than they got. Like Jill's parentage is an obvious factor of that, where like she's part of this northern kingdom, and there's even that moment where I told you before where it's just like, okay, how are we going to sneak back into our own country of Rosaria? I know, we'll go through the northern territories, loop around, and then get back into Rosaria that way. On the world map, it's click Rosaria. That all happened, you know?
Yeah.
That's probably like 10 hours of gameplay that we just skipped right there.
Yeah,
like,
true. So I guess to keep us rocking along here, I mean, lots of cultures. I liked it. I think, yes, some stuff could have been developed a bit more, but I like how some stuff was left to our imagination as to what was going on here. But speaking on icons, sorry, Kev, you have...
No, I was just going to say, just on that, I also loved, I'm sorry, I'll let us get on with it now.
No, by all means.
But I really loved the design of a lot of the characters and the cultures. Like, again, the Rosarian armor, I think, looked amazing. The Dalmatians, the way those two guys with the knives that you fight, and I know they get repetitive, but the assassin guys with like the little mask to breathe the fire. The Dragoons looked amazing. Like all the Sandbrechians in their armor. The scene where like the Sandbrech Emperor is sitting on his throne, and they've got this giant mural painted in the background,
and it's just like
something you'd see in the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah,
but like placed into the game, like all of that added to the world for me. The design of the world, I thought it was
that you know that like the Sandbrech is kind of like religious zealots or approaching kind of religious zealots in terms of what, because like
it's a theocracy, like
the whole time that emperor is talking to Dion, when Dion's trying to talk sense into him, he's like, it is the will of Grigor or whatever else,
great
like,
Grigor
herself. Like, Jesus, like this guy's it was very, very good. So we're talking about the icons there. And we have, and this, like, the icons are the basis for combat in this game, and a huge part of actually telling the story. And the icons are based off someone's from Final Fantasy games gone by. So
great to see them getting a more central role.
Great,
yeah.
It makes no sense in 7 that they even exist.
They're just material.
They're just there for no reason.
They're there in most of the games as just like
things,
just an extra cool, strong
9,
magic spell.
Well, in 6 and 9 and 10, they're very central to the story.
Extremely central,
and 9's quite cool because
9 as well, because that's
like
how they invade the other countries.
Like, so that kind of stuff was very, very cool. But in this one, it was, and that was what really sold me before the game came out. When I saw the first trailer, and I was like, oh, like there are people who become the summons and fight each other. I was like, damn.
I don't think I'll ever be able to see Ifrit again and not think of Clive or Jill. Like for me, like, oh wow, Ifrit and Shiva really got it on. Like, it's their human forms, Like, I'm always going to be thinking that now.
It was iconic.
Hey, he said it here.
I said it.
Nice. Oh, so based off that, so we got straight at the game. You get the powers of Ifrit, as they call him in this game. I've always called him.
I like Ifrit.
Ifrit's good.
It was always Ifrit to me. So
it will be Ifrit for me again when I change, but 16 is Ifrit, and that's fine. Like, I'm not against it.
So we had Ifrit, Shiva, Ramu, kind of the classics. Garuda, who hasn't appeared, was in 14. I remember.
Was she in 14?
Yeah, in 14.
Okay.
Big deal in 14 as well.
Because we were talking, and I was just like, how are they going to do wind? Pandemona looks ridiculous,
Yeah. And then we've got Bahamut, Odin, Titan, and did I miss any?
I think that was
Phoenix. And Phoenix. Yeah.
Well, Phoenix to me is the least popular out of all of them, but because like it's so centered on the 2 fire ones, they were like, oh, what other fire one do we have? Phoenix, because Phoenix is rarely a main summon in any of the games.
Phoenix was not just because the other 8 are pretty much your standard,
like the ones from summons. 10, and Ramu, like
plus Ramu, So like they're such an integral part to the fighting in this game. Did you guys first and foremost, I guess, did you enjoy the combat for this game?
Yes. My first playthrough more so, because I was swapping like icons constantly, and that actually made the game a lot harder for me because my button memory was always terrible, and I was getting wrecked just because I had no idea where my abilities were. But I really, really enjoyed the combat, particularly like Phoenix and Garuda, because I really thought it was really difficult, the Phoenix gameplay, like hitting someone up and then teleporting to where they were. Like, I never got the knack for it. But by the time I got to my second playthrough, I never had to use Phoenix or Garuda because Odin, Shiva, and Bahamut were just so powerful. And it's unfortunate, but like you'll see on New Game Plus or like the Ultimate Mode if you ever do, but the best moves in the game are the ones that require no skill whatsoever. Like, they're all the limit break moves, like Judgment Bolt, Diamond Dust, Zen Tetsuken, and Giga Flare are the best moves in the game. So like, in order to do the most damage possible, you just stick on the ultimate move for each one, and you just fire it off. Like there's no combo. It's just you press
It's
the
just
button
one
and
after the other.
and,
Because
it
like,
slows time, so you have like 10 seconds to think about what you're gonna do next while you're waiting.
it like pauses the stagger bar in them as well. I really loved it watching the evolution of the stagger system, because I think it came in 13. There was a stagger system in 13, and then I don't think they used it in 14, but it was the stagger system in 7 Remake and 15, I think.
Yeah.
And 16.
Yeah.
And it's just getting better. Like
it's good.
this is some of the most fluid combat in a game ever. Huge variety of abilities for icons. Not enough enemies, like we were saying earlier on, but all the enemies, bar like the complete trash mobs, do have unique move sets, which are exciting. Very Final Fantasy 14 AoE effects.
If they just did more damage, it would be really like tough,
intense.
I think.
Yeah.
Really intense.
Yeah.
It was
really
quite easy. So, did you guys have a favorite combination of icon abilities that you used?
For sure.
So, Kev, I'll go to you first. What was your go-to setup?
My favorite, I finished the game with Phoenix, Garuda, and Titan. I enjoyed all the other ones, and I played through all the chronoliths and tried them out in combat a few times, but I actually felt like they were too strong. I felt like Phoenix, Garuda, and Titan were too strong. But they're all, upfront, close combat.
They require the most
attacks,
skill.
Counters.
Yeah.
So I had a counter set to square for each one. Like I had Heat Wave, the whatever not Deadly Gouge, the one that Garuda has, and then the
Gambit,
Raging
Rook's
Fists.
Gambit.
Yeah, Rook's Gambit, and then Raging Fists. So I'd constantly be like dodging moves, very interactive combat, and it was great. I did I was doing 70,000 stagger damage on a stagger or whatever by the end, which was enough.
Yeah.
It was still too easy even with those, but I absolutely loved them. I've since played a little bit of it. Shiva was very fun. Bahamut's is grand, but you do his Mega Flare thing, and you're just floating around, strafing from side to side, waiting for someone to hit you, and then you dodge them.
Yeah.
And you do that twice, and then you kill everyone in the screen because you use Mega Flare and
Which
all this
decimates everything.
Yeah, decimates everything.
But what you could do is you can still do your command. You can control Torgal, and if you have satellite going, you can still fire it off the shots. And you can also still taunt the enemies to make them immediately attack you. So what I would do in every fight, because Mega Flare was actually on my main, but I'm just too big a Bahamut fan. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of it, I was like, I'm not getting rid of Bahamut. He's my boy. So I had Mega Flare, Satellite, and Giga Flare as my Bahamut set. And I would go into battle. I would immediately pop Satellite. Then I'd go into my Mega Flare, be firing, I would just hold L1, and the satellites would just be gun turrets mowing down everything. But then I would just keep taunting, and then as I was dodging the attacks, I would build up my Mega Flare, and I would usually fire off a Mega Flare as I fired off a Giga Flare, and I'm like, oh, Mega Giga Flare, like the ultimate attack ever,
Yeah. I think towards the end of the game, when I forgot about my ability points for a long time, that kind of the sphere grid thing you get with the icons, and I had a huge amount of points, so I actually sat down and I was like, okay, I'm going to develop a system here, probably about 80% of the way through the game. And I finished on, so you got 3 icons. My first icon was Phoenix. That was my power icon. My second,
really, that was your first?
Yeah, who thought? Yeah, never took him off. The first icon. My second icon was Garuda, and that was kind of my stagger icon. And my third icon was I had it on not Ramu, because Ramu's circle move was crap. I had it on Shiva, but I didn't actually have any Shiva moves attached to it. So I had Shiva on, but Shiva was there to that was my damage multiplier mode. So I had this thing where on Phoenix I had the Scarlet, the
Scarlet Cyclone.
Yes, that one, and I had Ignition. Those are my 2 moves. Then for Garuda, I had Gouge, but I also had Impulse from Bahamut.
Impulse is amazing.
Impulse is unbelievable.
Shreds their stagger.
So they had Garuda was my stagger killer, and then I had on the Shiva one. Actually, sorry, I had Rhyme. So I had the Shiva one where you throw the bolt out and it sucks people in, I had Lightning Rod.
I didn't like that. I hate that.
So I'd get to this point where I would, the moment I got ready to stagger, fully stagger an enemy, the first thing I did was I launched Impulse, and just as I launched Impulse, I throw a rod at the head of the enemy. And then I would just wail with everything else that I had. By the end of the game, my average, so even if I messed up a couple of things, it was anywhere between 72 and 78,000 damage on a thing. Because the lightning rod is just...
The lightning rod's insane. I saw Maximilian dude use it, and then you said it to me, and I tried it, and I was like, this is far too strong. I'm not playing with it.
I was telling, the two moves, I think Lightning Rod is just 2x damage. That's basically all it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Will o' the Wisps is invincibility mode.
Oh, that's great,
That's-
man. I started using
And
that.
that
yeah,
also
that's insanely
multiplies
strong.
damage because the fireballs
I
hit
constantly hitting them.
and like
yeah.
and you can take 4 hits before anything hits you.
Yeah.
And like it lasts for 30 seconds, and then by the time you would be hit 4 times, you can just use it again. So you can be invincible forever.
It's
you know?
way stronger than I thought it was going to be. Like when I read the ability, I was like, this is stupid. Don't care. And then saw Maximilian Dude use it and was like, oh.
There's a lot more
I
stand,
used it
yeah.
a couple of times on my second playthrough. I think maybe once against Odin or something like that, because I wanted to just get I wanted to like see what kind of damage I could do, like the highest stagger I could do. But I'm always shocked with how because Maximilian Dude, I watched his entire playthrough and he wasn't enjoying the game because of the difficulty. But he was constantly using Lightning Rod and stuff like that. Like he was making the game as easy as possible for himself.
And
because
then complaining about
he
the fact that it
couldn't
was like-
get out. Like his priority was always do as much stagger damage as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that mentality. I know a
No.
lot of people probably have that as well, but I always wanted to have more fun. Like for me, I had Garuda, who I had the move. Well, it's a circle move, so it pulls you up in the air. But I had the ability where you step back, you do the wheel kick counter.
Yeah.
And
Scammy
then
gives
I
me a
would
little
hit
bit-
circle a
oh,
couple
yeah,
of
Scammy,
times,
yeah.
and then I would switch to Titan and use the upheaval because I'm in the air. And then that would just slam down from the air and hit down into the ground. And it looked amazing because you're already through the air. And then you slam down on the
Yeah.
ground with your fist. And that did fuck all damage. But I did it every time because it looked great, you know?
And that was an issue with it, with the game, was especially once you do the side quests. I don't know what it'd be like if you're just doing mainline. It was too easy.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with these like close combat, lower damage. There's
Yeah.
no point in me just Zantetsuke and
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
too good.
entire groups of mobs, because it's like, well, where's the fun? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not having fun
Yeah.
anymore. And I think that's a good point, actually, because I watched a lot of Maximilian Dudes. I was ahead of everyone but Craig, and Craig's not a big texter. But I was ahead of everyone else, and I
You could have
couldn't talk to them.
texted me if you
I
had a
did
question.
text you,
Don't
and
blame me.
I did text you, and you got back to me in like 3-word answers. But I,
Yeah,
I
man,
was
it's
watching.
cool.
But I can't spoil anything,
Yeah,
you know,
of
because
course,
he'll
of
ask me like,
course.
"Oh, what do you think? What do you think's gonna happen here?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't
I
know."
don't
You know,
know.
like I can't
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah.
But that's why it was so good watching Maximilian Dude, because I got to see someone else experience it before you and Niall were caught up.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, because I was watching him being like, he
Like,
was complaining a lot
he was
about how
complaining,
easy it
but
was,
he was-
but then he was
all
doing
he
as
was
much
focusing on-
damage
yeah,
as
yeah.
possible all the time,
Yeah.
and it's like,
And like that's clearly a little brain thing that you have. That's not good because you're ruining your own enjoyment by
yeah.
because like and like his first like 5 or 6 videos were like using Phoenix and Garuda, and I was like blown away by how skilled he was compared to me.
Oh,
like
yeah.
he was so
Unbelievably
much
good.
better.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got to like Odin Bahamut, I was like, well, now I'm better than him because I'm doing all the stuff he was doing, and he's just like hitting ability with no skill. Like he's just hitting them in order, you
Yeah.
know, like, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
so he's made the game way worse for himself, but he's like, look at those numbers, aren't those exciting? I'm like, they're just fucking numbers. Like, you know?
yeah.
I think I got wrapped up in the numbers towards the end of the game, but as I was playing through the end of the game, I just wanted to see how high I could do the damage. But my first half of the game was incredibly enjoyable, because even like you saw me, Kev, playing it like early on, I had like Ramu equipped for a good chunk of the game, and like I think
Can't
Ramu's
believe you had
probably-
Ramu. He's
But
my
he's-
least favorite easily.
I would, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think who my least favorite would be. I'd be torn between Ramu and maybe Shiva.
But Shiva,
The cold, the circle
Shiva's circle attack
is amazing.
I
Yeah.
have a clip to say is the best moment in the whole game for me was when, like, do you know those berserker guys are spinning around with their
Yes.
axe? So they're gonna hit you a bunch of times in succession, but like one of them spun at me, and like I got my like raging fists off, and it
Yeah.
was like da 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 da, hit him 100 times, but like in slow motion he's still spinning.
Yeah.
And just as like his axe is gonna reach me at the end of the move, I just hit circle with Shiva, and I just dashed out of it, and he turned to ice. Like, you know, so I got like 2 amazing counters off back to
Class.
back, and he was just fucked. Then I just obliterated
Yeah.
him. You know.
What did you think? I'm sorry to bring us on a tangent, because
No,
we're
no.
flying through the time. But you were saying when we were in Craig's the other day, we were talking, and you were like, didn't see Behemoth in this game at all. And then you do the Behemoth
Yes.
fight.
Did you notice how I was purposely
You
trying
were-
to
yeah,
lie
yeah,
to
yeah,
him?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I was like,
right.
oh shit, yeah, I can't believe he's
Good
not
point.
in it.
That's mad,
I was
isn't
trying to put the game down in
He
front
was
of you.
he was very good, and it was cool because he starts off with, when you're first introduced to him, because he is one of my favorite enemies. He's one of my favorite enemies in 14
And Monster Hunter World.
And Monster Hunter World, great fight, one of
Yeah.
the most challenging fights in
Yeah.
Monster Hunter World as well, actually.
It's a good boss, isn't it?
Yeah,
Except how it ends with the power of friendship. He fires the meteor, and like he can't be like Phoenix. Like he no longer has any power yet, and Clive just, I don't know, walks up and just holds up the meteor. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's coming down fast. And
Craig.
he's like, "Har!"
I really liked it.
Yeah, you're talking to a Kingdom Hearts fan here, so
Yeah,
that's
bollocks.
That spoke to me.
I liked
you know?
it though, and then like Phoenix is like healing his arm or whatever as
No,
they're
but
holding
why
it
didn't the
back.
meteor just crush him instantly? Why is he holding it up, and how could he do
Because
that? Like,
it's a game about magic, man.
I know, but the over the top
It's called Final
stuff is
Fantasy.
just too much sometimes.
I
like, you know?
enjoyed that. I think I thought that was like it was a cool little. Well, I wouldn't say cool. It was an interesting a cutscene for a normal enemy essentially, because you fight them a couple of times later on in the game. There's like one of the hunts is one of them as well.
Yeah.
And without that cutscene bit, I thoroughly enjoyed the fight as well. Like Meteor and Comet and stuff like that. It's like that's what I love about Behemoth, and 15 kind of failed them a little bit because it didn't really do that as much. But like playing a Monster Hunter World and Final Fantasy 14 and this,
he's a great fighting
the
world.
Comet.
You know?
The
That's why I was so
Meteor.
disappointed with the ecliptic meteor thing, because like we were ducking behind fucking like
Rocks,
to survive that, and he just holds it up with his bare hands. I was like, you fuck off with that, like, yeah.
No, it was cool to see him. I'm just gonna think like because we are moving along.
Can
here
we
on
just
time.
make a long episode? Like?
We-
I mean, I know it's already long, but we
I
just
mean, if
do
people
like an
want
hour
to
and a
turn it
half.
off, they turn it off. So, you know.
They're dumb with us. So we got on to like combat and like kind of the icons and stuff. I don't have a huge amount left really on the episode, but I do want to touch on because
I've plenty I can just talk about.
well, I mean, absolutely.
And you guys haven't done New Game Plus, so your perspective could completely shift if you get another playthrough in.
yeah. In terms
Because
of for the
mine
better or
drastically
worse,
changed the second time.
for better or for worse.
A bit better, because you're like, oh, I didn't really use Shiva, or you didn't use Jodin, but
Yeah.
like you didn't have any opportunity really
Yes.
to use them anyway. Like, you know,
'Cause they're
like
so close to
you're
the end of
so
the game.
close to the end. But I mean, if you did New Game Plus, immediately you'd stick on Odin, Shiva, and something else. You know, you'd want to experience that, and it would change the game for you. So like, I do think that like each icon ability does get its moment in the sun on the second playthrough, because you've more freedom to experiment.
And that's one of the things I really enjoyed playing through the early part of the game, was that mix and matching. I think I was more into that at the start of the game than
I did
was
it so
later on.
much that it difficulty felt balanced for me, and I didn't nearly get what Max did or what you guys like. I'm not a good action video game player, though. I was RPG focused, you know. So I died probably more than everyone else here, I suppose. But on my second playthrough, I never died, you know. I just had it down.
Yeah, true. I think for me, I didn't get a game over. I was laughing with Kev because I hadn't gotten a game over throughout the game at all until I went to fight one of the hunts. Was the fucking red chocobo? What was that red chocobo? The hunt
Oh,
called?
the Dread Comet.
Dread Comet. The
yeah.
chocobo.
An A rank
thing,
hunt.
and it's only an A rank. It's not even an S rank. It
It's
destroyed
big,
me.
it's big.
Yeah, it's a tough fight.
crazy.
The one thing I wanted to touch on because it's Creative Unit 3, the guys that did Final Fantasy 14, and it's the same composer that was behind Final Fantasy 14 as well. The music, you just got
Hit and miss.
I thought all the tracks bar one were very good. I think what was problematic was that they should have had more.
Should have had more. But like, if you go into, you know, the hideout and you play just the jukebox, you see how few there actually are. And
Yes.
most, like, even the sound of silence is one, or just dum 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 dum.
Yeah,
like,
just
there's-
pretty simple
like,
stuff.
There's barely 4 or 5 like fighting songs in the game. You know,
Yeah, true. There's unique
there's like the
ones
kind
for
of
certain
icon
boss fights.
one, there's the boss one, and then there's the hunt one, and that's pretty much it. Like, you know,
I felt like there was more. I felt like a lot of the icons, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they all have like their own, like as you went on, the songs changed as you were fighting icons, and like
So we got for the icon fights, we got the same one, and that's the one I was telling you that I was disappointed
with
about.
the like choir,
Where
like,
it goes quiet.
female vocalist or whatever.
No,
and it-
yeah, but it's just where we're kind of real quiet and almost like kind of like not that the music was happy, but it paused and like because I remember fighting Kupka when he was semi-primed, which is one of my favorite fights in the game.
yeah.
Great fight.
good.
And I was absolutely enthralled by this fight, and it was neck and neck, and we were really tit for tat, and I was like absolutely just going for it, and I was hoping for the like, you know, like the actual classic, the battle music, and it was a different tune, but really, really exciting. But then halfway through that music, it just drops off completely into this kind of like slow, semi-happy choir-esque bit that really took me out of what I was doing at that moment, and that was the icon battle music when you were fighting them, at least before they primed. I think everybody had, I think like Titan had his
yeah, they all had their own themes or whatever. Yeah,
but for every time you're fighting like Benedicta, Barnabas,
I
Kepka.
loved that part of the song. And when it happened in the original Garuda fight or whatever, when you're fighting Benedicta, I wasn't sure if it was designed to happen at that part of the fight because it was fitting my fight perfectly.
I think it fits her fight better because you've got so few moves at that part of the game that like the screen isn't exploding with all these and you're not like blowing up the ground. It's a real like
you
tit
can
for
actually
tat.
see what's going on.
Yeah, it's a real tit for tat fight, and I think that music suited that battle way more because the Kupka fight is like he's got fists coming up to the ground, everything's blowing up around you, you're falling through the floor.
Right.
A really exciting fight, and then it drops off into this lull. And don't get me wrong, the music is amazing, but I just felt that it took me away in those moments from the big.
They could have had it
fights.
for the Benedicta fight and then just replaced those bars
With
in the
the-
Kupka fight with something else that's more upbeat or exciting. That's
Did
a
you
fair
one
criticism.
thing about the music though that really bothered me, and like it's because that song is my favorite easily. You know, ding, ding,
Oh,
ding,
man,
ding,
yeah,
ding.
yeah, yeah.
But there was a lot of times where like I was on my way to a hunt and say I got too close to wolves and that music would start up, but then as soon as I would trigger the cutscene, that same music would start up, but the volume went up by 10, you know? So they were purposefully making that song really loud. Like, you know, when you're watching a show and the ads come on?
Yeah.
Like they were purposefully making the music blare in your ears to try and get that effect. So
Oh,
they were cheating a little bit.
I tell you, Craig, it worked on me because I was only playing the S rank dragon
That was the one I said I really enjoyed as a fight. And I think you end up fighting some other dragons during it.
Yeah.
Who have similar move sets, but I remember fighting that one and having a lot of trouble. That was close to a game over for me.
But like a lot of fun, and in terms of fighting that dragon was, and this is what I loved about the combat and the mix of how good the music was. It needed more, but the music was all good. I felt
because dodging attacks looked so cool.
But that's it.
You know?
I was sitting on the beanbag playing this game, and it's been such a long time since I remember I was like that in the kind of the end game section of Kingdom Hearts 3. I was very much like that because it puts a lot on the line at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. You're trying to save everybody, and it's like quite intense. But I would just go in for these hunts. And to me, it felt like with the way the music was going and the scale of the battle itself, you're fighting a big dragon. Every time I felt like everything was on the line, and I was on the edge of like this beanbag playing it. And you know, if Lauren could have seen me as well, she was laughing at me once or twice because I'd be there playing, but I don't usually like move about while I'm playing a video game. But there were times where I was dodging these things and like Phoenix bursting through things to get to the enemy, and the whole time it's like ba 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 ba, and I was like, I am so cool. Like the game made me feel like such a cool guy the entire time.
It makes you feel like a badass, and that's something they did so well. There was a real worry. I'm not sure if we're going to get on this, so I'm just going to say now. But there was a real worry for me coming up to playing the game and starting it. They were putting a lot of emphasis on the icon battles. Mm-hmm. And the first scene in the game, you play as Phoenix and you're fighting a Freet. And you're like flying around and you're just like zap, like shooting
pressing
these, like,
R1 and that's
shooting
it,
these
like,
little fireballs. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the Garuda fight was incredible. The music was incredible. But you also had like, a couple of move sets, like 2 combos that you could do. And I was like, oh, this is going to get old later on. And then you go into a fight as Ifrit with Clive, and it's like, Ifrit has every move Clive has and learns them all as Clive does. So just go nuts. It's like, this is fantastic. Oh, and here's 3 to 4 extra moves specifically for
his
Ifrit.
ability to run really fast was
where you hold circle and you like fly along the ground.
Yeah, do you know when you first fight that Kronos looking thing, when Sid died, like
Typhon?
Typhon.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
The demon
fight.
wall.
Like, he opens up the walls and throws, and you have to run left and run right to dodge them. I was like having such a good time with that fight.
Very satisfying.
The icon battles, which actually we think we didn't touch on when we were talking about combat, but the icon battles in it were hit and miss, hit and miss, but like
I thought Titan was shit.
The first half of Titan was great, and its problem is I didn't think it was shit, but I think the problem that all of the icon fights almost had was that they were just a little bit too long. Mm-hmm. So Titan coming down with his arm really slowly
for 2 minutes
and it's like he should do this maybe twice. And if he was smart at all, would realize this isn't working for him and try something else. But you had that kind of repetitive, but
even when you beat him, then you have to fight him again small while you're in this
when you're
falling
tunnel.
I was like, what the fuck is happening here? Did he just turn back into normal Titan? The music there is stupid. It's so dumb. It's so
I feel like
dumb.
normal Titan was like encased in the middle of giant Titan, like controlling him.
Yeah.
And now
but wasn't he big enough
with his own arm?
Was he not big enough already? Like, why did he have to fucking?
I loved the outrageousness of that fight. I loved it. I thought it was. Yeah. I thought
the music was bad. I thought it was just repetitive. He had so much health. I was like, oh.
So, and I think I said this to you, Kev, as well. And I said it to you, Kev, that fight would have been made for me so much more enjoyable because you've got this huge, huge Titan, And the whole point of this fight and the whole point of the music is to make you seem like you've got this insurmountable mountain that you have to beat. But I never got a feel for the scale. And what they should have had in that fight was a zoom back to some trader on the mountains with his chocobo and seeing a giant titan and a tiny Ifrit fighting each other. For me would have, because there's a lot of fights where they have those moments where they kind of take a step back, and they didn't do it for this one, and it really lost.
So you see a big him, but you're on this tiny platform the whole time,
yeah.
and he's swinging his arms and missing you constantly. I'm like, there's nowhere for me to go. You're 10 times bigger than what I'm standing on, and you can't hit me.
I was like edge of my seat and loved the start of that fight where he like grows and you get knocked out of the mountain, and then you're like sprinting along the canyon or whatever, like dodging rocks and shooting out of the air or whatever. That made you feel like a badass.
I got wrecked there because I didn't know what to do or what to look out for. So all the stuff that was flying at me just kept hitting me, and I didn't get that it was a dodge. And I was like, I don't even know if this is a track, if it's on rails, or can I move left and right? Because nothing was explained, I kept fucking up, like, you know. And I was angry. I was like, tell me what to do. What is this? Like, you know. Is this Sonic now? What the fuck is happening?
That's what I liked about the Icon fights, is that a lot of them tended to be quite different from each other. So whereas that Phoenix one at the start, I was like, I don't know about these. It's but they did try different things. And as outlandish as the fight was against Bahamut in space, that one was a lot of fun. Like the fact that you had the Phoenix wings and you could like the flight looked
switching between Ifrit and Phoenix.
It looked fantastic. It was outrageous. But it was like, I mean, it's definitely a Final Fantasy trope, go to space.
Yeah.
Like, you go to space in 7, you go to space in 8, you kind of go to space in 9.
And then they land back where they left off somehow.
Yeah.
Like, no problem. Like even like they all just fall down. They land in the room of the same fucking castle.
Yeah.
So they didn't travel a million miles. Like, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah,
actually.
but that's the thing as well, is that, you know, I love them going for the outlandish, but part of me wants there to be, it's like the Titan thing. I needed to see that scale, and I needed to see the scale of what the space battle against Bahamut meant, because he was doing Zeta Flare, Giga Flare, like all of the Bahamut's ultimate moves, but there was no zoom back, and let's see more of him destroying his own city, because he's
I thought they did. It just annoyed me that like we didn't see what happened to Bahamut, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna seize power from my father, and then the next scene he's just obliterating the city for no reason. You know?
Well, I mean, we find out
straight after that, right?
You
like,
do get
like
that eventually, but the justification is still poor.
Yes, I mean,
I killed my own father. I'm losing control.
Yeah, but
I
go Bahamut.
disagree.
This is
I
where we
disagree wholeheartedly,
because it's years of pent up.
He's found out that Ultima has basically been like,
I know, but Ultima's
pulling
also
the strings
2
inside his
feet in
family
front
for a
of you.
decade.
Just stab him right now. I mean, he tries to.
He does. He throws a spear at him and kills his father.
No. He kills his father. But then Ultima walks right up to him and is like, "Oh, I thought you would have lasted longer. Go Bahamut." And then he immediately turns into Bahamut instead of just killing the kid right there in front of him.
But we also have to.
It was no kid. It was Ultima. The kid's gone at that stage, right?
No,
doesn't the kid turn into Ultima?
No, the kid walks up to him, and it's good because the kid
like
still says things that Ultima would say, and
Yes.
I was like, I liked that
because that's kind of messed
on
up.
my second playthrough, I was like listening to the words, and I was like, I could hear Ultima's voice, but it was the kid saying it. I was like, that's well done.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Right, that Ultima's like kind of pushing them all to breaking point, pulling the strings or whatever to test his vessel and to make Clive stronger, so that Clive will be able to like wield this power.
Yeah.
And like, I love the fact that Ultima was like a decade in this family pulling the strings. Like, did Ultima impregnate fucking Clive's mom? Did she ever, like, is he the kid? Did he put the kid in there? It's never explained.
I know.
Did the kid just turns to like the ashes that all the Akashic turn to?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But like, he was, it's so sinister.
It is so
it's
sinister.
so sinister, but it's not
sinister.
explained, and it's clearly they just didn't think about it. You know,
Well,
like
so-
you're coming up with better ideas than they gave. They probably have no idea.
But
how
so
that happened.
they didn't give us. They didn't actually give us anything.
They don't
with
have
the
to, and they shouldn't have to hold your hand. Like,
No.
right?
It's not
'Cause
holding
I
your
feel
hand,
like
but it's
that's been a
so
common
important to
complaint,
the
but, like,
story. Like it's essential.
Well, whether or not he impregnated her or whether he
no, but
took
because
over
her
the child's
justification
body
without
or, like,
Ultima is still like we just don't get it. She's just a mean bitch for no reason. But if we'd seen a bit of him corrupting her before time, or if the baby in the womb is corrupting her, like just by growing inside, like if we could see why she was such a horrible bitch and Ultima's plan affecting her, that would have been something. But she's just a miserable bitch for no reason whatsoever, and we never see any reason
you
for
don't
it.
get a huge amount of explanation why she's a miserable bitch. She's
Yeah.
just a miserable bitch.
Yeah.
But like, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too. So I think that what I liked about the Dion stuff and the father and him going Looper. Now again, a little bit. I still think it's a slight bit of a stretch. But what I do like, and Kev nailed it. It's so sinister. It's so sinister that he has always thought that it's Clive's mother who is poisoning the ear of his father. He has no idea that, like, right up until that moment, he's like, okay, either she's just the worst person ever, or Ultima has possessed her. He doesn't realize it's his stepbrother is Ultima.
Well,
and
he never knew anything was wrong until like 6 hours ago when Joshua came up and was like, "Oh, I have a story to tell you."
Well, no,
Well, he didn't know anything with Ultima, but he knew that there was a problem. He knew that year one was poisoning him.
But again,
like his
like
relationship with his father had been strained for ages. You know?
But we're led to believe by Dion's actions that his father was a good man and that he only turned evil after Annabella showed up with the baby. But he invaded Rosaria and destroyed. Like, he had a hand in all of that, and like Dion knew Joshua even then, and Dion never questioned his dad's actions for destroying their neighbor then. That was way before Annabella or even the child existed.
Well, no, Annabella existed. So the whole thing was that the only reason they were able to invade...
So his dad was a cunt the entire time.
Well, so the Annabella thing is that, like, she was working with him then when Phoenix fell. So he did know her then. So
but the baby wasn't the factor.
No, the baby wasn't the factor. But, like, her just being a horrible woman, and like, you know,
and still, like, the thing is, Ultima still could have been pulling the strings just because the baby wasn't necessarily there.
Yeah.
Like, he
could
was
have,
kind
but
of
then show it because it's essential, I think. You know?
Yeah, no, true. And that's where I think I understand your point 100%, but I would disagree in that. What I've enjoyed about this game is that it hasn't held my hand through all of the narration of the story. You're right.
But convince me that people are villains for their reasons. Don't just have, like, because even Odin is just this religious gobshite who, anytime he talks, I'm just like, you sound like Genesis talking about Loveless. He's just spouting nonsense constantly, like, that doesn't make any sort of sense at all. Like, it's just poetic nonsense, like, you know, and he's like constantly lives by that, and I'm just like, I hate you as a villain. You're just Ultima's bitch. Like, you have no motivation for yourself whatsoever. Whereas with Annabella, I wanted to see that, but then the second there's a moment where she could maybe feel bad for her actions, she's just dead instantly.
Yeah, but I like, but that's what I mean. Like a true, like, and that's the thing, because do people like that exist in the world? Yeah, that just horrible, bitter, racist, people.
Racist, power hungry, like
meanies who she saw herself with no way out of the situation because, you know, her son, who she thought was dead, is alive and could die again. Clive's come back, she thought he was dealt with. The emperor's dead, the city's blown up, so she's like, well, I can't fix this one. So she just is like, you know, coward, and out she goes, you know, ends her own life. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think a lot of it is left up to the reader, the player, to kind of to take
and
up
that's
what we
fine
wanted.
with some things, but don't make them the most important things.
Yeah,
like I said, with how, like, people are chosen to be icons, I think that's very important and a massive flaw to the game, that it's never explained how anyone became an icon. Anyone, even to the point where Clive is like, has the abilities of the Phoenix, and we're like, how did he get those? What is that? You know?
Oh,
like,
well,
it does show you that at the end.
It does show you that at the end, but then surely in every kingdom they have that as well, but you never see someone with Titan's abilities. You know, like, it's only Clive who ever does that.
The guys with the knives or whatever, I always took it that they had like Garuda's abilities,
but they are in Dalmekia.
They're not Garuda's people.
So if anything, they should have Titan powers, but they don't. You know, so that's again a thing that they failed at, and things that like those are the type of things I think of a lot, and they're just left unexplained.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think exactly, and I think there's certain aspects, like I said, whereby I think there's people with different minds. I didn't mind that because I just like to let my imagination run wild with that and say, okay, so like it's kids born, but Titan could be gone off the planet for like 12 to 14 to 15 years. And what was especially important about this period in history was that all the icons existed together at the same time, with the exception of Leviathan.
That's it. But wouldn't it have been great because, like, you know, the Phoenix dies and then there's a 15-year time jump. Like, during that 15 years, we could have seen the new Leviathan or the new Phoenix, or like, there's even after Ramu dies, there's a 5-year jump. Like, we could have seen a new version of Ramu in that time, you know, but we just never see it.
Yeah.
You know, despite there being years, you know, between some of the story missions, it never alludes even for a moment that there's another icon.
But what I love,
who died.
And this will be one of the questions I want to bring to you, like, we'll close the episode on, is kind of like, where do you see a sequel or a DLC going? One thing that I've thought about that I'd love, because we don't know what happens with icons, but you do get this piece when you're talking to the Undying, like the group that is like in the shadows protecting
I wish there was
Joshua.
more with them. I liked that.
But they talked about how there's lots of secret societies that exist in the world, and I'd love for there to be a group that literally goes out hunting for the next icon. Like marks the date that the icon has died. Like Kupka's dead. So
because in that world that would definitely be happening, because you obviously want to know where your nuclear weapons are.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's what I love, and that's what I think is like for a possible DLC, playing as a character or following the story of people who went to find Leviathan or find the next title.
That would be fantastic. Yeah. In fact, for me, if there was, are we going to do are we entering?
Yeah, actually, we're. Oh no. So Final Fantasy 17 is our post show. For our listeners, before we finish the show.
Sorry, are we talking about potential DLC or sequel?
Like 16 part 2 or 16 DLC.
So I would do that and set it 20 years later and have like Lila or whatever her name was, her kid as the main character and is the new Odin.
But there's no magic anymore.
Well, we don't know that for certain. We don't know what he wished for.
So
he doesn't specifically say that like his whole thing is I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop this end of the cycle of magic and icons. I'm gonna get rid of it all.
Yeah.
And then it flashes forward. My interpretation isn't the Maximilian dude when I think it's ridiculous. It flashes forward to a family in the future who's starting a fire. And they're gonna have to use science from now on because magic's just like relegated to the story.
I mean, you could.
So I took it that like if you do a DLC, magic's out of the option.
Yeah.
If it's a sequel, now you could like step it back. You could expand something or like put something in during the timeline of the game where you have Leviathan or whatever else. But like I would
do it as a
sequels.
prequel then instead,
like a prequel or like this is going on. Like what was you could play as Joshua. What was Joshua up to?
The whole time.
The whole time.
And which would be very much in line with what Final Fantasy games have done in the past when you look at the Royal Edition for 15, because the Royal Edition literally picks up characters that you're playing with, and at some point during the 15 story, Gladios disappears, Ignis disappears for a certain period of time, and then the DLC for them was like, well, what did they get up to? You could do something like that for Joshua. Me personally, I'm taking it that magic and the icons, everything like that has been destroyed by Clive. I think if it's a storybook, it's like that classic ending. Oh, but they woke up and it was all a dream, and I hate that idea.
Yeah,
so I hope that's not it at all. So I would do a prequel, and I know you're not going to like this because you didn't like him, but I'd love to see Sid setting up the highway, like Sid starting the band. Essentially, would be a cool prequel, like him in the Empire and getting out of the Empire and starting up. So you'd get some characters.
With Odin.
Yeah. Like the whole thing with Barnabas and like Benedicta, and like Benedicta being because I'd love to see more of Benedicta. She went out too quickly,
She is the best character in the game.
So I think if I was doing a DLC or a 16 part 2, I think I'd look at. I think it would have to be DLC. I don't think a part 2 is. I don't think
there's no part 2 to be had.
There's no scope for a part 2. Yeah.
For me, what I was thinking is because it annoys me so much that we don't know where the new icons would come from after the old ones died, and I just want that to be the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like when Clive snapped his fingers, did the Thanos thing, I'd like to just think that he didn't have enough power to do what he wanted to do, and essentially he just returned magic back to the land. So still using too much of it would be bad, but he's essentially just taken it all and put it back into the earth where it belonged. Like it's no longer in the crystals. He's just siphoned it back into the planet. Because for me, it doesn't make any sense that you could just get rid of magic, because surely if you get rid of magic, then all our world is blight, because magic was what kept it green in the first place.
Well, wasn't the magic the reason that
because I see as the magic
like
the life force, because it's so close to FF7, that the magic is basically in the earth itself.
And but isn't it like they're sucking out all of that ether and it's causing the spread of the blight, which is what Ultima did to their last planet, which is why the whole thing was ruined. And then he was like, well, I'm gonna come here and like take all this power and go set up
all
my
that
own
ether
world
still
where
in
that'll
the
be able
crystals.
to hold off the
And I'm
blight.
just like, if you cast a spell, couldn't you essentially just put that ether back in the ground to where it belonged? And couldn't that technically be his wish? And then what we could have as the sequel is suddenly the bearers are the only ones who can use magic, because they never needed it in the first place, and the bits of magic that are still in the ground they can use. And I would like the sequel to be about a bunch of really pissed off bearers wanting revenge on the normal people. So like the main villains of the next game would be bearers who have been fucked up by the
Did you do the side quest for? I'm sure you guys completed all the side quests. The one for Vivian where you get the book back for her.
Yes.
And you read the thing about the book, and the bearers were the superior race for a long time until they got their religion together, and the government was like,
it was a shame there wasn't more to that. Yeah,
they could. That would be a great DLC.
Yeah.
A great expansion.
That would be good.
Something
I really
back in time.
I'd love
you play
to see
as a bear.
something to show why the bearers are persecuted, because for me it makes no sense. Like what they're they can use magic. Shouldn't
Well, no.
we
So,
want
so
that to be a good thing?
the story thing talks about how bearers were magic users and they were revered from a religious. No, sorry, they were put into the heads of government because of the powers that they had, and everyone was like, "Oh, bearers," and they're running the government. But then they set up their own religion around it, and everyone was like, "Okay, they're becoming too strong."
Yeah, they said they wanted people to worship them as bearers or whatever. Yeah.
So then everyone kind of fought it back, and it created a war. I can't remember what the war was called based on that, but it's caused a war, and the bearers essentially lost that war. Hence, then why everyone was like putting them down because they're worried about what they could.
And
do.
I'd love to see that more fleshed out because it contradicts itself in the fact that then Hugo Kupka's in charge of Dalmekia and Dion's family are in charge of.
But they're icons, not bearers.
Yeah, bearers
that's
are icons.
No, it's a completely different thing.
No, so
you have to be a bearer to
be an icon. Yes, but if you're
you are a bearer.
Yeah, but I think the icon comes with another level of
prestige.
Prestige, yeah. So whereas to be a bearer is bad news. If you're going to be a bearer, you better hope you're an icon because otherwise life's going to be shit for you.
Yeah, because you're a bearer and you're like, oh, I can light fires.
I know, but think how
like
silly that is. That like you were a piece of shit, but then you got the iconic ability, and now it's like, oh, now you are able to come into society.
Well, but was Dion? Are you trying to say that like before people? We don't know, but like show themselves as icons, they're already bearers.
Yeah,
because
they don't have the ability to wield magic. In fact, just using an icon's power would kill them because you know the way like everyone got infected with the ether like so quickly.
Yeah,
like only bearers were immune, and the people who had the icons because they can take the magic through their body, but a normal human can't. So a normal human could never have an icon because they would just fall apart.
But when they get the icon, do they not? I always took it that they weren't necessarily bearers, but if their powers showed, then they were bearers and icons. But I like the bearers and the icons were a separate thing for me.
I don't see how it's
same magic
possible
system,
to have
but
been
separate thing.
But this
have an icon and not be a bearer.
And this is where you make a good point later on when we were talking about how it's so ambiguous, like where icons come from, how they develop their power. That's so ambiguous that we don't really know. Did Joshua live a normal life, had no ability to use magic, and then boom, had the power of an icon? Then you could understand that there'd be no racism there because he's not a bearer, he's just an icon. But yes, are they born a bearer? Do they show magic and then develop? But you're right, because if the case that Joshua was born as a bearer, even though he was in Rosaria, which was a place that was kind-ish to bearers, he'd still be treated like crap. So I don't believe that they're born with a ability to use magic. I think they are born with the thing that will awaken in them that will provide them with the power of the icon. So I think they're two different, separate entities. Is my interpretation.
That can control the same essential power, but like even because do the icons turn to stone eventually, or
yes,
do they just
because
they just get sick? But they all just like they don't turn to stone for a lot. They all just start coughing up blood and like Sid and Joshua and everyone else are doing the
Joshua was coughing up blood because he had the Ultima's disease in him. Sid actually begins turning to stone.
Okay.
So because
nobody ever actually fully turns to stone. Even the people dying in bed, their hearts just give out. Like they're partially petrified and then they die. Just the pain or whatever.
Yeah. This is pretty good. So we all agreed. I think that a DLC should definitely because there's
it
so
should
much
flesh out the people who were the icons.
Yes.
I think.
And whatever
have
they
maybe
do
a multiple characters and they can only use like the fire moves or the Garuda moves, but there's more of them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. That would be cool.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Or a prequel set in the era where bearers ran the place.
Yes.
I would love.
Yeah. Or show us because all that fallen shit. Show us that.
Yes.
The technology with the airships and shit, and show us them warring against Ultimate and ultimately losing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Because there's fallen shit everywhere, but it's never explained.
And in Dalmekia, that massive, amazing looking crater with all the water pouring into it, they're talking about like how there must have been some sort of like where the last weapon was used and failed or whatever else. So someone just dropped pretty much like an ancient nuke here. And
the reality is it's probably an icon just used its overdrive move, because it looked suspiciously like the circle from Phoenix Gate where Ifrits had devastated the land in an exact circle. Like it looked just
only just like way bigger.
Yeah. I think some of that was like an icon thing, but it wasn't it. When you go and read it in Harpocrates' lore at the end, it was that Ultima was basically putting down a rebellion. Like they all got too big for their britches and wanted like to take this power from their god.
Yeah.
So they like went in with all their bearers and their power and their armies and, you know, I presume icons, and decided we're going to take Ultima down, and he just shut them all down.
Yeah.
And that's just before he leaves then and goes into like
It'd be a good
hibernation.
moment for Leviathan to be like, maybe he was the head of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Maybe even Leviathan is the main character in that prequel, and that's how he meets his
That would be
end,
cool.
you know?
Yeah, Leviathan versus Ultima.
Yeah. I'd
It's
love
like
it.
you are not Mythos. Like
Yeah.
who would? Because remember, it's the very final fight, and like instead of calling you Mythos, he's like, no, you were Logos, and I'm like, who the fuck is this
I
character?
had to read the Hippocrates thing to get who Logos was. So Logos was essentially like the opposite to Ultima, like
Yeah.
the god versus the.
We
the
should have had
devil
more
type
with
thing.
that from to just say the
Yeah,
name randomly at the
yeah.
end of the game. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot
you
of
are
that.
Logos.
So I think that covers it. I think so. Before I'll get your final thoughts on it, to our listeners, if you are a Patreon user, you're going to get this 2 days early, 48 hours earlier this episode, and also we'll be doing a post show after this where we're going to talk about what we think of Final Fantasy 17 looks like. So if you haven't yet signed on to the Patreon, please do so. It's patreon.com/thegiftofgaming, where you can get loads of extra episodes, and you can hear us talk about what we think of Final Fantasy 17 is going to look like. You'll get these Games Club episodes where we do review on games a couple of days early usually, and I'm sure there'll be extra stuff as we go on. But yeah, listen, you signing up to Patreon helps us better the podcast, so please tell your friends, sign up. It's the cost of a coffee a month, and you get some pretty decent stuff in there.
And where can people find the Patreon there?
Patreon.com/thegiftofgaming. Yeah,
You
go.
sure?
Yeah. I'm
You
positive with that
hesitated
one.
for a
I'm
split second.
positive with that one. Yeah,
Well, real
Patreon.com.
quick, like, what are your review scores?
So how out of 5?
I go out of 10 because 5
let's
is
do
just
10.
not enough.
Yeah, 5 is
No.
not enough. It's too difficult.
Okay, out of 10, will I go first?
Yeah, 10 Moogles.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 Moogles. 10 out of Moogles. Then I'm going to give this game. I'm going to give this game It has its faults, but I have not felt so involved in a narrative, especially from a Final Fantasy game, in a long time. I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 7 remake, but even then the narrative is fucking. 7 remake is so washy. It's so
It gets
all over
so
the place.
silly at the end
So
as well,
silly.
yeah.
So for me, this is one of the strongest Final Fantasies from a narrative ever. And I think from a combat perspective, a pure enjoyment from the game, huge. It's got its problems. I'm 9 leaning to a 9.5 out of 10. I loved this game start to finish. I think the side quests could have been better at the start. They got better as time went on. It's missing a lot of its RPG aspects that I would have preferred to have, because that's what I love about Final Fantasy games. But I knew getting into this, it was an action-orientated game. So I wasn't the wool wasn't pulled over my eyes. I knew what to expect from this game, and what we got was phenomenal. 9 out of 10 for me. 9 Moogles. 9 Moogles out of 10 Moogles for me.
Moogles. I know you're going to be lower than me, Craig, so I'll go next, and then you can dive in at the end. I reckon about 8.5 Moogles for me. Same thing, incredibly enjoyable, super involved in the story, shed a few tears, loved lots of the characters, loved the combat, loved the cultures, had its issues. Talking to Craig will always bring games issues to light, and a lot of them were true and rang true.
That's why he's the critical.
The music fell off a little bit. Like you said, the enemies, there were some slow parts, some pacing issues. But 8.5 to 9. I've been saying 8.5. I think 8.5 Moogles is a fair score for what it is, which is a very good score.
Oh, big time.
Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Heavily invested in the game. Heavily invested in the combat. And all the outrageous stuff that you guys Titan, Bahamut, those big fights.
Yeah.
I was just give it to me. I don't give a rat's, man. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Love it.
And I have to say, before we get on to Craig's score, Clive as a protagonist is up there with one of my all-time favorite
He's
Final Fantasy
fantastic.
protagonists. He's got more depth than I think any mainline character from a Final Fantasy game has ever had.
I think he's brilliant. Brilliant voice actor. I know Craig made the point about him that he's you don't really know anything
About him
him,
whatsoever.
but he is who he is. He's a shield of Rosaria. He's a soldier. He's an honorable man who's just trying to do his best in this world and do with what he is gifted what
And
he can.
he's the first Final Fantasy character since Tidus was the eternal optimist in Final Fantasy X, almost to a fault. Mm-hmm. Every other Final Fantasy protagonist prior to that was the broody. Zidane, yeah, true.
Still, at least they weren't perfect. You know, Clive has no flaws. Like, he's just perfect in every single way. And I think that weakens his character a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's never, ever selfish or never, ever thinks about himself. And I'm like, I don't believe you could exist. You know?
People like
especially
you
in
aren't
this
real.
world. You know?
So, Craig the Critical, to finish us off on our scores, Moogles, out of 10 Moogles, what are you going to give 16?
I quite enjoyed the game. And I know I have a lot of gripes here and there, but my gripes build up the more people around me just ignore gripes, you know. So if you guys weren't here and I was just giving this review by myself,
Fantastic.
I would be being more optimistic. It's just
Yeah.
because I'm just like, well, it's not that good, Darren. You know, like
yeah.
I just have to bring
I
it down a
appreciate
little
that.
bit.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
I still really had fun with the game, and like those first 10 hours were some of the best I played. And Benedict was such a great villain, and I was really, really enjoying the game because I never knew where the story was going initially. I was like, who's even the bad guy? I haven't even met one yet, other than Benedict. Like, that was it. I didn't see the Empire or whatever. So I enjoyed Clive as a main character, even though I think it's a bit ridiculous that he's no personality. And every other character I just thought was either too good or too bad, and there was no in between.
Yeah.
So those are weaknesses. But I loved the boss fights and the enemy. And you guys say there aren't a lot of variety, but for me, because most RPGs usually have the bad guys only have one or two moves that, like, for big eventful bosses, I was like, we have at least 40, and that's loads.
And there'd be loads of
you know.
like phases as well in the boss fights where
Yeah.
there would be a phase, and every phase there'd be a whole new set of moves. You had
And
to
I
relearn.
will go back and do the ultimate difficulty where like maybe one hit kills me, and I think I'll really enjoy that because every enemy they've enough animations and cool attacks that, like,
They
if
should
they
be
were doing
dangerous.
more damage, I would be way more, you know, keeping my distance and feeling a bit better about it. But ultimately for me, it's an 8 out of 10 game, which is, you might consider that a low score.
I don't know. That's a
for
very
me,
good
it's
score.
a very, very good score.
Yeah.
It's just the game has issues, but it also does a lot right for the
Yeah.
series, and I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy 17.
the game does what it set out to do extremely well.
Yeah.
Like, it was sold as kind of almost too Game of Thronesy sometimes. Like, Cupcake gets his hands cut off and then has the metal hands. I'm like, this is just Jamie Lannister.
Yeah.
The twins, the Iron Bloods,
Yeah,
the Snow Wolf,
But
the fucking Jill being awards. I'm like, this is just fucking copy and paste. Like,
Yeah.
it went the direction, and all of those big budget action moments, the big icon fights, the animation, the combat, everything they said they were going to do, they did really well. And I think that's why it's such a good game. Like, they really went in hard on the important stuff to make Final Fantasy 16 what Final Fantasy 16 is and what they wanted it to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and take out about 10 hours of that repetitive fetch questing, make it more difficult. It's instantly a 9 out of 10. I can imagine that a DLC being released that just patches this and makes it way better, just because the things to fix are quite small, you know.
Yeah.
You just need to just give the
And
enemies that health.
you said it to me before we went on, and then we'll wrap it up after this. But you said it to me before we went on, because we're just going right
It's
back
an
into
hour
it.
and a half, 40 minutes.
You said it to me before we started. You were kind of saying that it's an action, like a heavily orientated towards an action game, but they still try and
missing
church
the RPG elements.
Yeah, missing with no RPG elements, but they're still giving you the RPG fetch quests, which are utterly pointless in an action
especially when
game.
you've no ability to get, or not, like,
Yeah.
I can have more potions. Okay, the game wasn't easy enough already. Like, I don't even want to get the award, you know. I want
Yeah.
you to keep your potions, so I've less.
So I try harder for me. Listen, Kev, Craig, thank you very much for coming on the show. I could not think of two better people to talk about Final Fantasy. I'm sure us trio will be back on when we get another trailer for Rebirth, or the
can't
next
wait.
announcement
Can't
for that. Yeah. And to our listeners, if you enjoy the content, we are going to hop onto a post show after this on our patreon.com/the gift of gaming, and we're going to talk about what we believe a Final Fantasy 17 looks like. Kev, thank you very much. Craig,
Thanks, Aaron.
thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
And to our listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed the review. And until next time, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out.